It was a beautiful sunny day. The stands were packed with fans, and the archery competition was in full swing. The announcer says that the third set has been completed, and there is one last arrow left. We see the youngest participant in the championship preparing for the final shot. The main character has black hair and blue eyes, and his name is Yoo Sung-hyun. The announcer said that all of the young man's shots were right on target. The announcer asks if Sang-hyun's final shot will be as perfect. Having gathered his courage, the athlete pulls the bowstring. Having taken the right position, the guy brings his hand with the bowstring closer to his face and takes aim. His hand is as steady as ever because he can't just lose. Finally, the fingers relax and the bowstring is released, sending the arrow flying. The arrow rushes forward at great speed, causing the audience to freeze for a moment. Finally, the arrow hits the very center of the target, completing a series of perfect hits. Fans with placards jump up from their seats and chant the young man's name. The announcer announces that there was a perfect hit in the top 10. Sang-hyun masterfully hit the very center of the target. The rest of the guy's team comes up and congratulates the winner. On this day, the youngest champion of national competitions was born. However, these are only good memories that have now been shattered by the harsh reality. A stack of papers flew straight into Sang-hyun's face, to the surprised looks of his co-workers. The manager yelled at the guy and asked what he was thinking about so hard. Sang-hyun rubbed his bruised head and apologized to his boss. The man ordered the guy to redo all the documents, after which the guy began to collect the papers scattered across the floor. The boss watched Sang-hyun's actions and noticed that his hands were shaking violently. The man muttered to himself that the guy was a criminal, and he didn't understand why they needed a stupid archer with an injured arm. Even though the boss spoke quietly, Sang-hyun still heard him, but he didn't say anything in response. After some time, the guy collected all the papers and left the office, closing the door behind him. Sang-hyun leaned his back against the glass surface, took a deep breath, and said that another day was behind him. When evening came, the working day was over and the guy went home. There he was reviewing the footage from the shooting championship. Sang-hyun looked at his smiling face and realized that there was nothing left of his former self. He sighed and said to himself that 10 years had already passed since that very moment. The boy remembered the archery training room and how shooting was everything to him. This sport required serious financial investments, and the guy lived with his grandmother, so the only way out of the situation was to get a scholarship. Day after day, year after year, the guy honed his skills. The guy continued on his way to his goal no matter what. He continued shooting with a bow to become more accurate. Sang-hyun has earned many medals and cups through his work. It was so great to be a promising young talent. Sang-hyun believed in his destiny and a cloudless future. But a misfortune happened that crossed out all his plans for life. Remembering the most terrible moment of his life, the guy looked at his shaking hand. If the coach had not gotten him a job at the company, Sang-hyun could have remained unemployed for the rest of his life. The guy shook his head and said it was time to stop reminiscing. To distract himself, Sang-hyun decided to go to the app on his computer and see what streams were currently on. After scrolling through several streams, the guy realized that they were all about fully immersive games, because they are currently at the peak of popularity. Not long ago, a new system of games was invented. This advanced technology is called full immersion. It allows the gamer to feel like he is in the gaming world. To play, you need a special device, a capsule, which is why these games are often called capsule games. The main problem is that the capsule costs a fortune, and an ordinary office worker like Sang-hyun can't afford such a game. The guy thinks that he is lucky enough to be able to watch the broadcasts of these games. Now Sang-hyun watches as one of the gamers watches the boar from behind a tree trunk. The player received a notification that a subscriber had sent him 100,000 won with a task to kill a boar with a bow in 15 minutes. The guy loaded 3 arrows at once and said that he could do it in no time, but the spectators laughed at him. The streamer sent arrows flying and thanked the subscriber for the money. However, all 3 arrows missed their target, landing quite far from the boar. The chat was immediately flooded with comments containing ridicule. One of the subscribers asked why the guy took the bow, to which the streamer replied that he could do anything, and it was all the capsule's fault, since it was old. Sang-hyun watched the stream with interest and read all the comments. The guy's eyes grew sad for a moment, and he muttered that anything was possible in the game. Sang-hyun would like to say that he doesn't envy them, but no matter what the streamers are, the crowd, including Sang-hyun himself, is crazy about them. In the past, the guy was ready to give everything to achieve universal recognition, but now his mood has deteriorated, and he closed the tab with the stream. The guy turned off the computer and got ready to go to bed. The next day, the boss caught Sang-hyun's resignation letter and said that the company was restructuring. The boss warned that if Sang-hyun left quietly, he would be paid well, but if the guy was fired during the restructuring, he would get nothing. Without thinking twice, the guy replied that he would quit of his own free will. The boss asked if he was serious about this decision, and Sanchin replied that the man himself had promised severance pay. The man pushed the application towards the guy and said that he had made a good decision and should file the application today. The boss rubbed his head and told the guy not to worry about it, since he got into the company through connections anyway. The man said that all the employees had been through a lot, studied at universities, wrote resumes, and even went to study abroad. Comparing Sanchin with the rest of the staff, the choice was obvious to the boss. The brunette didn't really want to talk about anything else, so he simply said that he understood everything. That same day, the guy quit his job and went home to his small apartment, which was in an old building with cracked and darkened walls. Sanhyun lay down on the bed next to his things and rubbed his head from fatigue. The guy was crushed by everything that fell on him. He is already 28 years old. At some point, a round window on one of the walls began to remind Sanchin of a target. It seemed like it was a long time ago, but the memories of my youth were very close. The peak of his sports career was 10 years ago. It was at the age of 18 that he became the youngest participant in the national championship. However, one single day turned his whole life upside down. At that time, he was just a high school graduate with nothing to put on his resume. Then all the good memories were crossed out due to injury. Sanhyun sighed and thought that he couldn't go back to the past anyway. The guy was thinking about what to do now, and at that moment, a notification came on his phone. It was a message from the streaming app that the stream was about to start. Suddenly, Sanchin remembered the words of that gamer that everything is possible in the game. A few minutes later, the guy was already sitting at the computer and looking for information on how to stream. Sanhyun thought that if everything is possible in the game, then he will be able to shoot a bow and show it on the stream. But he is not sure if it will become popular. The guy whose streams Sanhyun often watches doesn't play very well, but the viewers still like it. Looking at him, the guy wondered how many top streamers there really are. Sanchin immediately began searching for a lot of information and watching videos from different streams. In fact, he was very surprised. It turned out that there were many more experienced and good streamers than he expected. Reading through the many comments, Sanhyun realized that many of those watching the streams want to improve their skills to the level of streamers. The more information the guy found, the more fire lit up in his eyes, because it all looked so much like the world of sports. In real life, there are many more variables, such as school acquaintances, relatives, friends, a whole range of unpredictable factors. But the gaming world is completely different. He reminds Sanchin of the life he enjoyed when he was young. It was a life in which you had to compete, improve yourself, and gradually rise higher and higher. The game world was simple but fair. After a while, the guy's eyes lit up with desire, and he went into the streaming app. He thought that maybe he too could immerse himself in this universe. A few days later, Sanhyun goes to meet his friend. The brunette tells his friend that he is going to buy a game capsule. His friend's name is Kim Ji-hyuk, and he was unhappy that the guy decided to buy a toy with all his money. Ji-hyuk reminded Sanhyun that he had never played this game before. The brunette remained calm, and then his friend asked him how long he had been holding a bow in his hands. Ji-hyuk started yelling at Sanhyun even more, but the guy tried to calm him down. However, the friend remained adamant and told Sanchin to come down to earth. At some point, the brunette stopped making excuses, because he sincerely did not understand why Ji-hyuk was so nervous. At his previous job, Ji-hyuk was the only person Sanhyun could trust. The life of the brown-haired man is completely opposite to the life of Sanchin, since the guy is the elite of society, a major from a rich family, and is moving towards success by leaps and bounds. Ji-hyuk realized that his friend wasn't listening to him and put his head down on the table, suggesting that they start playing at the casino, but Sanhyun replied that he wasn't good at cards. After a while, the brown-haired man asked how much the game capsule cost, and found out that it cost 4,000 won. After searching the information on his phone, Ji-hyuk said that the capsule itself cost that much, but its maintenance will cost a lot. Sanhyun was surprised because he didn't think he would have to buy anything else. After all the additions that were announced, the brunette realized that all of this came to almost 1 million. Sanchin hit the table and said that this couldn't be. Ji-hyuk told the guy to wait for him at the cafe until he finished all his business. So Sanchin sat waiting for his friend until the evening. Ji-hyuk decided to try to dissuade his friend from this idea, and took him to an interesting place. They walked together to the building that had a play area with capsules. The guys stopped near this building for a while. Following behind Ji-hyuk, Sanhyun thought about how he should buy the capsule instead of renting it. When the guys climbed the stairs, the brown-haired man greeted his friend Kang Seok-hyun. A man with brown hair and stubble greeted them warmly, and asked which of the guys wanted to buy the capsule. Seok-hyun invited the boys inside and said that he could offer them the remaining models at a reduced price. Sanhyun gave a thumbs up, thinking that he shouldn't expect any other level from the elite, and Ji-hyuk gave a thumbs up in response. The brunette walked inside the store and immediately saw the capsules. They stood along the walls in large numbers. While San-hyun was looking around curiously, Seokhyun approached him and put his hand on his shoulder. Moving very close to the guy, the man offered Sanshin to check the capsule before buying it. Having grabbed the guy who agreed, Seokhyun ran to another room, since biometric data must be collected for the capsule to work. After a while, Seokhyun told San-hyun to hold on a little longer since they were almost done. Ji-hyuk walked closer to the man and thanked him for his help, to which Seokhyun replied that he was just getting rid of used goods. Looking at the screen that displayed the scanning information, the man said that Ji-hyuk should talk his friend out of buying it. Seokhyun warned that there are a lot of streamers now, and San-hyun just watched enough and got excited about the idea, despite the fact that capsule games are an expensive pleasure. The man said that many people mistakenly think that they will be able to fully demonstrate their talents in the game, but in reality, everything is completely different. Ji-hyuk asked if it was really that different from the real world, and the man replied that it was completely different because a person does not use his physical body. Seokhyun says that when there are no physical limitations, logic and common sense take a back seat, and ultimately it all comes down to willpower. The man remembers that San-hyun was fired not long ago, and that's why he's now fired up about this idea. But things might not go the way he wants, so Ji-hyuk will have to support his friend. Looking at his friend undergoing a biometric scan, Ji-hyuk thought that his idea would be much better than San-hyun spending all the money on the capsule. Once the scan was complete, Seokhyun approached the brunette and said that he would start an archery game for him. After giving some advice on how to play and use the capsule, the man wished me luck and closed the capsule. Sanshin's consciousness began to sink into the game space. The guy closed his eyes and noted that this was a very unusual feeling. San-hyun feels like his body is in one place, but his consciousness is carried away somewhere. After some time, the guy decides to open his eyes. The first thing he sees is a bright light shining straight into his eyes. As his eyes adjusted to the bright light, San-hyun saw tree leaves swirling in the air. Now he was not in a game capsule but on a shooting range. It felt as if he had been transported through space. The wind carried the falling leaves and tousled the boy's hair. Sanshin saw a bow in his hands and looked closely at his palms. He was fascinated by the fact that his hands were no longer shaking, and heard the announcer introduce him. Sanshin studied his feelings and could not distinguish them from reality. It seemed to him that he had returned to the past at the Olympics. The announcer announced that it was time for the first arrow, and the boy reached for his quiver. It was at that moment that he remembered Ji-hyuk's words when he asked how long it had been since San-hyun had held a bow in his hands. The brunette put the arrow on the bowstring and thought about whether he would be able to do it. San-hyun was afraid that the trembling in his hands would hinder him this time too, but at some point, he froze in place. Ji-hyuk and Seokhyun watched the game on the screen. The guy asked why San-hyun wasn't shooting and the man replied that he was probably nervous, as newbies often behave like that. Ji-hyuk didn't understand why San-hyun should be nervous when he was so calm in everyday life. Meanwhile, the brunette himself was immersed in the game and was hesitating, not because he was nervous. He listened to his feelings, pulling the bowstring and taking aim. The guy felt that the sensations were completely different from reality, but now his hands were no longer shaking. This happens because everything here is unreal. The guy releases the bowstring and hits the exact center of the target, earning 10 points. Ji-hyuk and Seokhyun were shocked by what they saw, and couldn't believe that the guy hit the target on the first try. While the announcer is talking about the hit, San-hyun takes another arrow and pulls the bowstring again. Without hesitation, the guy fires another arrow and hits the bullseye again. San-hyun can't stop because he hasn't been able to hold a bow in his hands for so long. One after another, he sends the arrows straight into the center of the target. The announcer tells Sanshin to keep shooting. And so 4 arrows had already hit the target, and not a single one had missed. Ji-hyuk and Seokhyun were amazed, and the guy said that it was all very similar to real archery. The guy asked the man why everything was going so well if reality was so different from the capsule games, to which Seokhyun replied that San-hyun was just adapting so quickly. Looking closely at the guy on the screen, Seokhyun said that something was wrong. The man said that the boy looked completely different. Looking at San-hyun, who was easily clearing the game, Seokhyun asked who the guy was. When all 4 arrows hit their target, the capsule announced that the game was over. Sanshin's consciousness began to slowly return back to the real world. Seokhyun came out to help the guy and said that letting the guy buy a used capsule would be tantamount to a crime. San-hyun sat quietly the entire time, which made Ji-hyuk worry and ask his friend if he was feeling sick. Sanshin didn't answer, but only raised his shaking hand to his face. His actions made Ji-hyuk feel uncomfortable. Before the game ended, Ji-hyuk told Seokhyun that San-hyun was the youngest gold medal winner. He assumed the boy could be the best shooter in the world. But then a misfortune happened that cut short the guy's entire career. Ji-hyuk remembers helping his friend when he got drunk out of grief. At those moments, he wanted to help his friend more than anything in the world, but he didn't know how. All he could do was watch his loved ones suffer. Archery was all Sanchin ever loved. At that moment, when the friends were sitting together in a cafe, Ji-hyuk said that San-hyun hadn't picked up a bow in so long that he didn't even remember. However, can a brunette forget these feelings? San-hyun remembers everything down to the smallest detail, just as he remembers that unfortunate incident. He remembers the cold and indifferent look of the doctor who told him about the results of the tests, remembers the dream he had to say goodbye to. All this now fell upon Sanchin as heavy memories and tears began to flow from his eyes. Ji-hyuk was afraid for his friend and wanted to approach, but San-hyun asked him not to do so. San-hyun wiped away his tears and said that it was all very awkward. Seeing the smile on his friend's face, albeit weak, Ji-hyuk calmed down a little. This trial game showed San-hyun that he really wanted the capsule, and the boy immediately bought it. When the capsule was delivered home, the guy spent the whole day installing it and was very happy when it started up. San-hyun was very tired, but he was happy with the thought that he could start the stream today. The guy remembered how touched Seo-kyun was by his story and hoped that the man didn't sell himself short because of it. Gathering his courage, San-hyun decided to start his first stream. First, the guy had to select a game and set up the stream settings. The guy chose Kingdom as his first game, with its immersion into the Middle Ages, and the plot of the entire game revolves around the life of a mercenary. The game is filled with realistic and tough fights at every step, and that is why it is not very popular. Well-known and popular games are usually played by a lot of people, so streams for them are conducted much more often. Kingdom is a well-known game, but due to its high difficulty, there aren't many streamers in it, so it's just right for beginners. After some time, the character's appearance was configured, and the program warned about the start of the dive in 5 seconds. Sanchin felt the familiar sensations in his body again. As if in a dream, the boy heard someone calling him to wake up. Only after a few seconds, Sanchin opened his eyes and realized that he was lying in a not very comfortable position. His appearance had changed, and now his hair, although still black, had golden eyes and a bruise on his cheek. The guy sat up and realized that he was in a cart with boxes. After he had a rough idea of where he was, he turned his gaze to the street. A fierce battle appeared before his eyes. Sanchin couldn't believe that he was in the middle of a fight, but he was distracted by a voice that persistently brought him to his senses. Sanchin saw a man with blonde hair and a beard, whose name was Roman, and he was the captain of the mercenaries. Getting out of the cart, the brunette apologized and thought that his cheek hurt because Roman had hit him. The captain called the guy a stupid insect and ordered him to take up arms. In an instant, the game froze, and signs with different weapons appeared in front of Sanchin, which he could choose himself. Suddenly, the guy saw a pop-up message asking him if he wanted to complete a bow challenge. San-hyun didn't have time to notice how 5 viewers connected to the stream, but the guy was unhappy with such a small number. The guy asked what was wrong with a bow, and the commentator explained that it was easy to miss with it, because the arrows bounce off enemy armor, and their number decreases. The commentator said that it would be best for a beginner to take a sword, but San-hyun still chose a bow. Despite the comments ridiculing him, the guy noticed that viewers are not so negatively disposed towards him, and continue to watch the stream. Sanchin looked back and said that he had chosen a bow, but he did not see one nearby, and at that very moment a man fell next to him. The bow that the man had previously held in his hands flew into the air. Sanchin didn't have time to notice this and simply looked at the dead soldier. The bow fell neatly into Sanchin's hands, which surprised him greatly. The guy received a notification that he had received 20 arrows, but he was not happy. He was very scared, which made the commentators laugh. Roman was fighting at that moment and ordered Sanchin to come to his senses and join the fight. The captain said that the guy wouldn't hit anyone like that, but the commentators told Sanchin not to pay attention to him, because Roman always has a sharp tongue. The guy had no intention of giving up, and simply pulled the bowstring with an arrow and took aim. With one precise shot he hit the enemy's head, which surprised the spectators. But there were also those who said that beginners are lucky. Sanchin thought it was similar to traditional archery, but was somewhere between traditional and modern archery. The guy asked if arrows kill in one hit, and the commentator answered that this only happens if you hit vital points. The same person wrote that one shot to the head is usually enough, so Sanchin replied that he would spend 1 arrow per enemy. The commentators just laughed at his confidence, and it even made the guy grin. Sanchin decided that he would prove to them that he was right in practice. In the end, it all depends directly on his shooting skills. Quickly running his eyes over the battlefield, the guy noticed that there were about 20 bandits, and the guy has exactly 20 arrows, which means that it is possible to pass the test with a bow. It turns out that he has 1 arrow for each enemy. Sanchin pulled another arrow and said that he would quickly deal with everyone. One after another, the boy fired arrows right at the target. He thought he might miss because the targets weren't static, but it turned out to be much simpler. Sanction's attention was drawn to the bandit with a shield who was fighting Roman at that moment. The captain launched many blows, but all of them were blocked by the shield. Sanchin assessed the situation and thought that it would not be easy, but it was worth the risk. The main thing was that he had enough arrows. Roman continued to strike one blow after another. At some point, the bandit had to move his shield back a little to repel the captain's attack. Because of this, Sanhyun was able to see the bandit's body completely. The guy grinned and took an arrow out of his quiver. Pressing his fingers to the bowstring, Sanchun began to aim. Finally, he managed to catch the moment when the bandit opened up. With one shot, Sanchun was able to defeat this enemy as well. This concluded the test. Sanchun looked around and noticed that the bandits were gone, and the shield bearer was the last one. The guy looked at the stream chat and didn't notice any messages, which made him think that the viewers weren't impressed with his shooting. A few moments later, a single message appeared in the chat asking what had happened. After him, the chat was filled with a bunch of messages in which viewers were delighted with his performance and did not understand how a newbie could do so well. Because of the comments, Sanhyun thought that the boss couldn't be killed, but he was told that he simply couldn't be killed. The guy reminded him that he was told that a headshot kills the enemy immediately. The commentator replied that you can't do that with the boss, so he doesn't understand how Sanchun managed to do it. The guy was told that because of the shield, the boss can only be killed with a full draw, and Sanchun said that with a full draw, it is not so difficult to play. The commentator responded that it was very difficult to aim with such a stretch, so it became impossible. A few moments later, Sanhyun saw a comment from a viewer asking if the guy had really been playing at full tension the entire time. Sunhen was distracted from the chat by Roman, who called him. The captain came closer and asked if the last shot had really been fired by the boy. When the stream ended, a chat opened with discussion of the stream in open access. The video lasted just over 20 minutes, and an anonymous viewer decided to watch it again. The viewer saw the game character firing one shot after another. The last one killed the boss without any difficulty. After this, Roman approached the player and put his hand on his shoulder. Roman spoke lines that were unusual for this character, praising the player's abilities. The viewer, on the advice of the commentators, rewinds the video to the very end to find the player's nickname at the very end. At the end of the dialogue, Roman asks the player for a name to report to the mercenary commander. The player thinks for a moment, apparently choosing a name for the character. After thinking for a bit, the guy calls himself Almond. An unknown viewer starts looking for information about this streamer, and says that he will definitely remember him. The Kingdom Forum had a gloomy atmosphere, as did the game itself, as interesting events did not happen very often. That was until a post about Roman praising a newcomer turned everything upside down. The video from the stream became the most discussed topic in Kingdom. Commentators suspected that the player had used a bite, since Roman had never spoken to anyone like that before. Players insisted that the account was either fake, or that a professional had created a new body and was replaying the game. The author of this post claimed that this account definitely belongs to a newbie because the stream name was automatically generated. Sanhyun read all these comments and couldn't even think that the stream needed a name. One of the comments said that even streamer Electron couldn't handle the boss. Sanchun immediately recognized the name, as he had seen it at the top when he was searching for information about professional players. The brunette is surprised that he has started to be compared to a former professional player. Sanhyun was shocked that he only did one stream, but he is already being compared to a top player. Commentators began to worry that if they continued to compare, Almond might quit the stream. However, Sanchun himself was very pleased with their comments, because he did not expect anything serious from this game test. The guy was distracted from the discussion on the stream by a phone call. Taking the phone, Sanhyun didn't understand why Jihyuk was calling him so early, but he answered the call anyway. Jihyuk was at lunch at the time, and asked his friend how his first stream went, and Sanhyun said it was good. Seokyun asked the brown-haired man to ask if the capsule was working properly, to which Sanhyun replied that there were no problems. Jihyuk asked if there were any viewers on the stream, to which the brunette replied that there seemed to be. Sanhyun said there were about 20 viewers by the end of the stream. Jihyuk answered a little thoughtfully at first, but then jumped up in place, asking again. Only later did the brown-haired man remember that he was in a cafeteria and had scared people with his scream, which is why he had to apologize. After that, Jihyuk quietly asked Sanhyun what the guy did on the very first day to attract so many viewers. Sanhyun was snacking on nuts at the time, and replied that he was lucky because he chose a good game. Jihyuk asked why the brunette had joined their company if he had such talent. Sanhyun only asked if Jihyuk would agree to transfer to a large organization if he was offered, to which the guy replied that it was a fair remark. So the friends chatted about nothing for a long time. At some point, Sanhyun said that it was time for them to finish. since he still needed to prepare for the stream, which greatly surprised his friend. The brunette said that now there are no lunches or dinners for him, since streaming is his job. His words made Ji-hyuk freeze for a moment. But after a while, a smile appeared on the brown-haired man's face. He noted that Sanshin never worked during lunch, even in the office. Before Ji-hyuk could finish speaking, San-hyun heard his boss shout through the receiver. The man was unhappy that Ji-hyuk was eating while his younger colleague was having problems. The brown-haired man quietly apologized to his friend and turned off his phone. San-hyun sat and looked at his phone, thinking that his boss was still the same. After some time, the guy approached the capsule and launched it. While the capsule was loading, San-hyun wondered if he should have eaten something more substantial, rather than just nuts and milk. But the guy always felt like he was just wasting his time instead of working. San-hyun sat in the capsule and thought that he just wanted to start as quickly as possible. Ever since he read that forum, his heart has been unable to calm down. He hadn't felt this pressure of comparison, this tension of being discussed for so long. San-hyun smiled, as he couldn't believe that he was so inspired by people's interest and appreciation. The guy sighed and said that at heart he was a true athlete. As soon as the message was sent out that Almond was starting a stream, people immediately started joining him. There were a lot of people asking all sorts of questions, and wondering why the guy decided to stream at that particular time. Someone said that they luckily came across his page right now, so they are looking forward to what will happen on the stream. Sun-hyun noticed that the chat was moving much faster than yesterday, which made him want to know how many people were watching it now. When he looked at the number of connected viewers, the guy was shocked, as there were 189 of them. The guy couldn't believe that the number of viewers increased ninefold in just one day. Sanshin didn't expect that forum to attract so many people and create so much noise. The guy has never been in such a situation, so he is a little nervous and does not know how to react to it. San-hyun decided to wait a bit before responding to the commentators and catch his breath. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, imagining that no one was around. San-hyun reminded himself that none of this was real, and that it was just a game he was playing in third person. The guy began to immerse himself in the game and thought that he liked this feeling. When he is transported to another world, all nervousness evaporates as if by magic. San-hyun gathered his courage and greeted the audience, saying that he would continue from where he left off yesterday. At this time, Ji-hyuk was in the office at his desk. In reality, it turned out that nothing serious had happened to his colleague, but his boss still distracted him from his lunch. To calm down, Ji-hyuk bought himself a coffee, but was distracted from drinking by a notification on his phone. In the message, San-hyun thanked his friend for his help and promised that he would buy him a drink next time. Ji-hyuk looked at the message with a smile and was glad that his friend was working hard. But suddenly his face changed as he remembered something. Ji-hyuk called San-hyun because he wanted to tell him something, but he completely forgot about it while they were talking. When Seok-hyun was helping with the delivery of the capsule, he asked Ji-hyuk to pass on some important information to the guy. The brown-haired man was distracted from his thoughts by an employee who reminded him that the guy had a meeting in the third conference room. Ji-hyuk replied that he would come now and again, plunged into thought, trying to remember what he was supposed to tell San-hyun. Meanwhile, San-hyun was already immersed in the game and streaming. Ji-hyuk only remembered that this information was somehow related to body optimization or something like that. Last night, San-hyun searched for a lot of information about how popular streamers manage their audience, and about controversial situations. One article said that you shouldn't mention the number of viewers because it can disrupt audience engagement. San-hyun decided to point out that he remembered all of yesterday's viewers and listed their nicknames, thanking them for joining him again. These words flattered the commentators, and they began to write even more messages in the chat, calling San-hyun a streaming genius. At this point, the guy decided that it was time to start playing and began full immersion. After some time, San-hyun was transported into his character's body and opened his eyes. This time, awakening found him right on his horse. San-hyun said he went straight to what he's good at, and it might be because he finished streaming yesterday and played a little more. Sanshin had previously asked Roman to introduce him to the leader of the mercenaries, and so he now has a new quest. The guy needs to tell the viewer about everything he does, so he told him that the quest involves accompanying a nobleman. Viewers wrote that the game is very realistic, and that mercenaries always worked as bodyguards. San-hyun thought that the game was indeed very realistic, as he felt like he was riding a real horse. Roman's voice came from ahead, asking if this was the first time Almond had sat on a horse. The guy responded automatically that he hadn't had many chances to ride it, and the way he said it made San-hyun think that it was a basic phrase. Roman began to turn to the guy and said that he needed to get used to this as quickly as possible. Sanshin was already expecting another caustic comment, but the capital smiled and said that in the future the guy would have to ride a horse a lot. Roman laughed, and it made even Sanshin freeze for a moment. The chat was flooded with comments about Roman behaving in a way that was unusual for the game. Many commentators asked what Sanshin did to their Roman, but the guy didn't understand what he could have done wrong. One of the viewers asked what kind of quest the guy was going through since he had never seen him at the beginning of the game. The commentator said that bandits on horses should appear around this time. Sanhyun was distracted by the comments and stopped looking around. It was at this moment that the sound of hooves and shouts came from the side. As it was written in the chat, the squad was attacked. A multitude of mounted bandits approached the delegation. Roman took out his weapon and ordered the mercenaries to attack. At this moment, the leader of the bandits had already approached the procession quite closely. With one blow, he cut off the head of the nearest mercenary. Roman reported that the vanguard had been broken through. The captain ordered to defend themselves and help those who found themselves at the back of the line. Sanhyun watched this from the side, taking out a bow from behind his back. The guy reads the comments and sees that many people like this situation, but there are also those who want the guy to lose. This is a typical reaction in the casual world, so the guy is used to it, but now he has to focus on the game. Sanhyun decided that the best way to silence the malicious commenters was to complete this quest at the highest level. The guy got ready to shoot and said that there were about 50 robbers. Sanhyun drew his bow and thought that a good result in the battle would attract even more spectators to his side. The guy said that this time it wasn't even an ambush, but the mercenaries still managed to start losing. To begin with, Sanhyun decided to deal with the bandit who led the squad into battle. The guy fired a bow without getting off his horse and shooting, rushed between his allies. The arrow did not hit any friendly characters and accurately hit the enemy's head. The robbers, who were following their leader, stopped in fear. Roman and the mercenary squad also looked at what was happening in shock. The bandits froze in place and did not continue to attack the mercenaries. They said that this could not happen, that their leader could not die so easily. Comments in the chat also said that Sanhyun had done something impossible. Sanhyun read all the comments and didn't understand why the viewers were so surprised, because for him, it wasn't something difficult. The number of viewers increases with each passing minute, and Sanhyun thinks that they really like it. The guy once again pulls the bowstring and says that it's time for them to continue, because the battle is not over yet. Sanhyun is happy enough that he will leave the battlefield as a winner. One by one, the guy killed all the bandits with a precise shot to the head. Sanhyun completed the quest with absolute calm, without being distracted by the comments in the chat. One after another, they hit the target right on target. Not a single arrow went wide or crooked. The bandits looked scared, while the commentators became increasingly convinced that this was not a fake account. The bandits felt that they could not win this battle, so they decided to retreat. The spectators were amused by this situation, and Sanhyun once again pulled the bowstring and said that he would not let a single robber escape. The guy apologized to the robbers, but once again let go of the bowstring. It was another accurate hit that excited the spectators. The comments continued, but there was one who pointed out that something had changed in Almond. This viewer wrote that the player's pose changed. The bandits began to retreat, but Roman ordered the mercenaries to catch up with each of them and kill them. At this point, a notification came from the game that the task had been updated. Now the task was for Sanhyun to catch up with and destroy all the bandits on horses. Without delay, the guy rushed into battle and told the audience that it was time to end the quest. The next day, an anonymous user logged into the Kingdom website and saw a ton of chats discussing Almond's stream from the night before. The user decided to watch the sensational video and was surprised to see that the player was holding a bow in his hands. The guy was curious about who this newbie streamer was that wanted to play this unpopular game. This user is one of the gaming streamers with the nickname Acorn. The guy launched the video from the stream and watched what was happening with interest, thinking that Almond might be similar to him. However, what he saw shocked him. Acorn Jelly jumped up from his seat and asked what it was. Absolutely all the bandits were killed with a single arrow to the head, without a single miss. A simple headshot is not enough to instantly kill, and these enemies died in an instant without even realizing what happened. Acorn Jelly's hands began to shake and he couldn't believe that such a perfect shot actually existed. He actually saw the perfect shot for the first time. In Kingdom, an enemy will instantly fall if you hit their vital point, but this only works for enemies of a certain level. In other words, if you have a boss in front of you, even a critical hit won't kill him in one hit. Everyone knows this, but in reality, there is a hidden system in the game. The only hit that can beat a critical hit and has higher accuracy is the perfect shot. But not even all professional players know about it, because no one has used it before. Acorn was wondering if it was even possible to activate the condition and attack in the first 1.5 seconds, and hit the exact center of the enemy's vital point. Judging by the stream, Almond used this attack not only once, but also killed all subsequent bandits using this method. Acorn thought that it might be some kind of code that helps to pass the game, but immediately dismissed this thought, since no one in Kingdom needs it. The guy decided to look for information about Almond to see what other games this guy plays, and what exactly he does. After doing a little searching on the internet, Acorn was in complete shock, because this player is actually a newbie. Meanwhile, we return to the stream that Sanhyun hosted the day before. He is currently in the process of chasing the escaped robbers. Roman told Almond that a bow was not the best weapon for attacking from horseback, and suggested switching to a spear or club. The commentators supported Roman, but Sanhyun had no intention of changing weapons, as he likes archery. Almond told the captain that he would not change weapons, and everything would be fine. After a few moments, Roman accepted his answer and did not insist. With sparkling eyes, the captain said that if Almond did it, he would succeed. This behavior of Roman caused the chat to explode with incoming messages about discrimination of players by the captain. Sanhyun thought about how he had never ridden a horse before, and that this would be his first time shooting at a moving target. The guy takes the arrow and pulls it back, wondering if he can do it. It's only at this moment that Sanhyun realizes that no matter how much he imagines it, his hands continue to shake. But despite this, he cannot give up so easily. The first shot hit the robber in the neck, but still killed him. Commentators were surprised that the guy did not change his weapon as recommended, and after the hit, they called the guy a horse archer of the Joseon dynasty. However, the guy was not happy with the shot, as he was aiming for the head, but still hit the neck. Sanhyun focused on his feelings and decided that he needed to adjust to the horse's rhythm. He needs to be much faster than his opponents, but he also needs to be even more precise than before. The arrow flew towards the bandits at great speed. This time, she accurately hit the head of one of the enemies and killed him. The other bandits were horrified by such accuracy. The chat was filled with messages about how the guy had repeated that perfect hit right on target, and had even gotten even better. After this time, Sanhyun was able to adjust to the pace of the chase, and continued to release one arrow after another. They all hit the target right on target, this time without a single miss. After some time, the field was littered with the bodies of enemies killed by a precise hit to the head. Roman came closer and said that he couldn't believe that so many enemies could be killed in the blink of an eye. The captain turned to Almond and said that the boy was an archer sent from heaven. The captain's words were supported by the other mercenaries, who said that they had never seen anyone shoot like that before. Everyone was happy that Almond joined them and nicknamed him Robin Hood. The commentators in the chat also said that Sanhyun is great, and they don't understand what he's doing in a game like Kingdom. Suddenly, the screen with the control panel lit up differently, which caught Sanhyun's attention. The guy received a message that Acorn Jelly sent the guy 100,000 won, saying that all his shots were perfect. After some time, the quest came to an end, and the nobleman gave a speech of gratitude to Roman and Sanhen. The man said he would definitely remember Almond's name. At that moment, the guy himself was studying the notification about the received donation. Seeing the reaction of the audience to the donation from Acorn Jelly, Sanhyun guessed that this person is quite famous. Messages started coming into the chat asking why the guy wasn't reacting to the donation, and some wrote that the guy was shocked by the amount. Sanhyun didn't understand what the audience wanted from him, and decided to ask how he should react. Commentators said he should shoot a bow, or at least pretend to do so. Sanhyun said he would do it, and raised his bow up, pulling the string. The guy pointed the arrow upward and fired. The arrow shot into the sky at great speed. Sanhyun looked up and saw nothing, and the commentators were again unhappy with his reaction. The audience started saying that it was very stupid of him, but Sanhyun didn't pay attention to it. He spread his arms out to the sides and said that the arrow had disappeared. However, the next moment, the arrow sent into the sky returned and pierced Sanhyun's own head. After that, a notification came that the game was over. This made all the viewers laugh because they had never seen such an epic suicide for a donation. When the guy was an athlete, he only shot blunt arrows, and now he is glad that the audience liked it. But at that moment, the capsule turned off. The capsule's lid opened, but Sanhyun couldn't understand why this happened. The guy was sweating because the capsule had no cooling system, and attributed the sudden shutdown of the capsule to the fact that it was an old generation. Sanhyun immediately picked up his phone to see what was happening with the stream. Even though the broadcast was cut off, the chat didn't close, so the guy explained what happened, but they asked him to return to the game. Someone wrote that the guy has incredible talent, and he was flattered by this, because the guy thinks that this is not bad for a beginner streamer. Sanhyun decided not to explain his tactics, and simply wrote in the chat that there would be no more broadcasts today. The chat was flooded with negative comments from viewers who were unhappy with the sudden interruption of the broadcast immediately after the donation. Sanhyun decided to search the internet for information about Acorn Jelly, and found out that this user was popular. The guy decided to study this user's playing method by watching several videos from the broadcasts. After just a couple of videos, Sanhyun realized that this guy is truly amazing. All the bow tests were not very good, but the other videos were pretty good. Sanhyun couldn't understand what such a famous streamer was doing on his channel. Soon, a notification about an incoming message arrived on the phone. The message contained a greeting from Acorn Geely. After learning more about Acorn Geely, Sanhyun found out that the guy is a versatile streamer, and he would like to become just like him. In the message he sent, Acorn wrote that Sanhyun's game really touched him, and he suggested that they meet up sometime and exchange life hacks. Acorn suggested doing a collab, but pointed out that he wasn't putting pressure on the guy, and if there were any questions, he would be happy to answer them. A collaboration with such a versatile streamer could help Sanhyun in the future. However, viewers may perceive this as an attempt to rise in the chats by using another streamer's fame. Sanhyun rubbed his head and couldn't figure out what he should do, and there was no one to ask for advice. At that moment, the phone lying nearby rang. Taking the phone in his hands, the guy saw that Jihyuk was calling him. When the guy answered the call, his friend said he had just watched his stream and asked if his nickname was Almond. Sanhyun confirmed that it was him, and Jihyuk then asked how the viewers reacted to him. Sanhyun said that everything was fine, but Jihyuk didn't like such a simple answer and asked why the guy was so calm. The brunette said that he had become accustomed to increased attention since childhood, so it was not a problem for him. It sounded like bragging to Jihyuk, so he angrily squeezed the soda bottle. Sanhyun asked if that was the reason for the call, but his friend replied that there was something else important. A few moments later, Jihyuk announced with a laugh that he had also quit the company. His words left Sanhyun dumbfounded, after which he began to ask why his friend had made such a decision. Jihyuk took a sip of his soda and replied that he had just gotten into a fight with his boss. Shaitan said that he should have thrown an ashtray at his boss when he was leaving the office. Now, it has dawned on Sanhyun that Jihyuk can now sign a contract with another company after playing for a certain period of time for his company. While Sanhyun was thinking, Jihyuk continued to talk about how his boss had been driving him crazy for a long time. At that moment, Sanhyun was only thinking about whether he should ask Jihyuk to be his manager. However, the guy quickly dismissed this idea, since he still wouldn't be able to pay his friend for the work and didn't know what he would need to do. Sanhyun's thoughts were brought out by Jihyuk's words that from now on, he would become his manager. A friend said he was looking forward to working with Sanhyun. Not receiving an answer, Jihyuk asked if the guy was against the idea, but Sanhyun began to convince him that he really wanted it. Sanhyun said he was concerned about his friend's financial situation, but his friend changed the subject. Jihyuk recalled that the first time he used the capsule, the boy burst into tears, and these words greatly embarrassed Sanhyun. Sanhyun's excuses were cut off by a friend who said that he became thoughtful when he saw the brunette in such a state. At that moment, Jihyuk realized that Sanhyun really liked archery. When the brown-haired man saw his friend in such a state, he realized that he had never done anything like this. Jihyuk said that he also wants to find out what he really likes. Sanhyun told his friend that if he did this, it could affect his career. Jihyuk replied that nothing would happen if he took a year off before looking for a job, but they would be able to get a good contract in time. Jihyuk asked if the brunette doubted him, to which the guy replied that he was completely confident in his friend. Sanhyun told his friend to quit right now, and then he would let him roll in money. The brunette said that Jihyuk can start work starting tomorrow. For some time, the guys discussed various work issues. Upon learning that Sanhyun had received a collaboration offer, Jihyuk said that choosing offers was his specialty. Sanhyun asked if everything would be okay, and Jihyuk replied that they couldn't miss such an opportunity. The brunette reminded him that he was making a bad impression on people, but Jihyuk said to leave it to him. Jihyuk has an idea, and he suggested to show what they are capable of. The next day, it was decided to meet with Acorn Jelly's manager. The manager, a girl with long light brown hair named Nayeon, was concerned that they had chosen a less than presentable place to meet. Acorn Jelly, whose real name is Do Jemuk, responded that he chose this place because the guy has potential, but Acorn is still a superstar. Nayeon reminded that the last time they collaborated with a certain streamer, Jemuk almost fainted. The guy was not happy with this caustic remark and changed the subject, saying that Almond had the best physical attributes in the country. Jemuk said that investing in a guy like that could be good for their future. The girl said that in this world, everyone looks at abilities and asked if Jemuk had met Almond in person. The guy turned away and answered negatively, which made the girl doubt that her protege was really a professional. Nayeon started hitting him and saying that the guy might have been wrong about Almond and would then whine if the stream was cancelled. The guy and the girl were distracted from their fight by a voice that asked if the guy was Acorn Geely. Nayeon and Jemuk were distracted and looked at the person who approached. They froze in surprise when they saw Sanhyun standing in front of them. The guy was dressed in a suit and greeted Jaemuk and Nayeon, introducing himself formally. When Nayeon saw the guy, the first thing she thought was that the guy was very handsome. Jaemuk quickly stood up from his seat to shake hands and greet Sanhyun. While they were exchanging greetings, another guy in a suit approached them from behind. Jaemuk immediately noticed him and asked him to introduce him too. Juhyuk introduced himself as Sanhyuk's manager and handed the guy his business card. When Nayeon and Jaemuk accepted the business cards, Acorn thought that the boys were very sociable and friendly. Jaemuk wanted to learn more about his new acquaintances and decided to pay attention to the business card. After reading the information on the cards in detail, Nayeon and Jaemuk were shocked because Jihyuk used to work in a large company. While the brown-haired man accepted the praise with a smile on his face, Sanhyun wondered when his friend had managed to make business cards. Nayeon was very embarrassed and said that compared to Sanhyun's manager, she was an ordinary person. The girl bowed low and said that she looked forward to working together. Jaemuk suggested that the boys sit down and begin the discussion. Nayeon handed out sheets of paper to Sanhyun and Jihyuk and explained that they contained the stream order and a list of questions. After some time, the guys finished discussing all the details. Jaemuk said that they only had the financial side of the issue to discuss. Sanhyun said that he was new to the field, so he offered to do without payment, as a simple cooperation would be enough for him. Jaemuk replied that they were not living in a century of slavery, and Nayeon said that if they did that, it would cause a storm of negativity towards them. Sanhyun wanted to say something, but Jihyuk interrupted him and told the guys that in that case they could pay them the minimum amount. Jaemuk reminded that their work does not have an hourly rate, so this is not entirely possible. However, he already had a plan in his head, which he had discussed with his manager in advance. Jaemuk offered to give half of the donations that they would collect during their joint streams. This proposal greatly surprised Jihyuk. He was delighted and turned to Sanhyun to see his reaction. The brunette did not expect that they would make him such an offer, because initially, they did not intend to receive any benefit from this offer, except for experience. After the negotiations were successfully completed, Sanhyun and Jihyuk went home. The manager was happy that they would get half of the donations, and Sanhyun said that it would be quite a large amount. According to information from the internet, Jihyuk found out that the minimum donation amount for acorn jelly is 2 million won, so they should be able to get around 1 million. Sanhyun asked where the manager got this information from, after which Jihyuk sent him a message. Opening it, Sanhyun realized that Jihyuk had been recording the negotiations all this time, to be on full alert. The brunette thought that it was people like his manager who became heads of conglomerates. Jihyuk interrupted his thoughts, and said that if Sanhyun earned 300,000 a month, then he would be entitled to 20% as a manager. Sanhyun reminded that he had not yet earned even the minimum amount, and asked the manager if this would be enough, to which he said that he had a lot of savings. Jihyuk said that he has plans for everything, and his words calmed Sanhyun down a little. The next day, Sanhyun started a stream, and many viewers immediately joined in and asked why there was no stream yesterday. Among the comments, the guy saw information that he would have a collab with Acorn Jilai, which made the guy nervous. By agreement, Sanhyun cannot reveal the information, so he decided to pretend that he didn't know anything about it. While loading the game, the guy told the audience that today he would go after the leader of the bandits and try to destroy them all. There have been a lot of messages in the chat about how the boss cannot be killed with one headshot. Sanhyun decided to remind them that last time he killed the boss with one shot, but accidentally got his name wrong and received a few more laughing comments. Sanhyun was told that the leader of the bandits was not the boss, which made the boy feel uncomfortable about bragging. A message came into the chat where one of the viewers offered 100,000 won for Sanhyun to kill the boss with one shot. The guy thought it was a good offer, so he accepted it without thinking. However, it was only after Sanhyun gave his consent that he remembered that it was impossible to kill the boss with one shot. Sanhyun decided to be shameless, so he thanked the viewer for the donation and said that he would definitely take the 100,000. After that, several more people sent donations with the task of killing the boss with one shot, as well as with other tasks. Sanhyun hadn't yet managed to log into the game, but donations had already started coming in, for which the guy thanked everyone and said that he would do his best. The guy realized that even if donations determine the course of the stream, such communication will become an excellent source of constant income. Sanhyun decided not to delay any longer and began to dive. The guy found himself back on the lawn where he finished his stream the day before. The guy's attention was drawn to a female voice. Turning around, he saw a girl with turquoise eyes and blonde hair named Amelia. The girl came closer and thanked the guy for saving her from the robbers, and said that she did not know how to thank him. Sanhyun thought that Amelia might be the main character of the game, and his answer might change the course of the game. Before the guy could answer, a table with answer options appeared in front of him. All the commentators advised him to answer, so that he would hint at money. However, Sanshin chose another option, and said that it was not worth thanking, because it was their job. The girls still thanked Almond again for his help. In the comments, they started writing about another heroine named Rosanita, but the guy didn't have time to figure out what was going on, because he was distracted by Roman. The captain said that there was a risk that the remaining bandits were scattered throughout this mountain range, and suggested sending a special detachment to destroy them. Amelia replied that she would be very grateful, after which Roman went to give the order. The captain ordered the guards to remain where they were and set up camp. As night fell on the streets, the clearing squad set out. Sanshin was part of this squad because his mission was to destroy the boss. After some time, the detachment managed to notice the enemy camp. The mercenaries hid in the bushes to assess the situation and come up with a plan of action. Sanshin looked around and tried to figure out from which place it would be more convenient for him to shoot. Roman meanwhile raised his hand up and gave a signal. The captain said they would get as close as possible and attack from the rear at the same time. It was on this mission that Sanshin felt more nervous than usual. The feeling of being fully immersed in reality is almost no different, so he can't just brush it off as a simple game. A few moments later, the fight began. From the camp, screams were heard, indicating that they were under attack. The bandits standing by the fire realized that they had been taken by surprise. Before one of them could do anything, an arrow struck his head. The bandits didn't have time to come up with a plan of action. One after another, the archers shot them down. The bandits tried to escape, but to no avail. Arrows caught up with them, even when they thought they had found shelter. Sanshin hid in the bushes in a convenient place for him and continued firing. Unfortunately, his attacks attracted the attention of bandits. When the enemy managed to discover his location, they decided to eliminate the archer first. Sanshin's attention was drawn to the achievement he received, which unlocked the skill of consecutive shooting after 3 headshots in a row. The guy decided not to hesitate and immediately test this skill in action. His bow began to emit a light green glow. Sanhin activated the sequential shooting skill and fired several arrows at once. All 3 arrows pierced different targets at the same time, hitting them right in the head. Commentators began to write that this skill previously seemed simply useless. But even with this skill, Almond continues to hit the target. Viewers wrote that even if it was sequential shooting, it shouldn't be that fast. Other commentators wrote that it's not about the speed of the skill, but that Almond is like that on his own. After reading the comments, Sanhyun said the bow was much cooler than he thought. The guy received another donation, asking him to say that Almond doesn't have a girlfriend, to which the guy immediately fulfilled the viewer's wish. Sanhyun was a little tired, but was still happy with the result of the stream. And it wasn't just about the chat and the realistic feeling of full immersion. Sanhyun was very drawn to the reaction and joy of the people. While the guy was catching his breath, Roman crept up to him and put his hand on his shoulder. The captain said that at this rate, the guy would soon become the best in the empire. At that moment, a donation came in asking where the boss had gone, and that really made Sanshin think. Suddenly, the guy heard the cry of one of the mercenaries, who reported to Roman that they had found the boss's corpse. When they raised the head of the bandit leader, everyone could see that he had been killed by 1 arrow to the head. In the comments, people started writing that this couldn't be true, and that the boss definitely didn't die from a headshot. At that moment, a message came from Acorn Geely that a perfect shot could even defeat a boss, and sent Sanhyun a donation of 100,000 won. Looking at the chat, Sanshin realized that the audience was divided between those who didn't believe it and those who praised Almond's skills. However, the guy himself had only one question. What does a perfect shot mean? There was a lot of noise in the chat due to Acorn Jelly's comment about the perfect shot, as many people didn't understand what it meant. The audience agreed that the perfect shot was just a fairy tale, which greatly angered Jamuk. Unfortunately, Acorn cannot back up his words with action, so he hopes that Sanshin himself can do it. However, what shocks him most is that the guy himself does not understand how difficult a shot he made. Acorn sent another donation and asked if the guy really knew nothing about the perfect shot. Acorn couldn't understand how this could happen, since Sanshin had been performing this blow flawlessly all this time. Jamuk didn't know how to explain everything to the brunette. However, he was not upset by this. He was genuinely surprised by this guy's abilities. Acorn thought that Sanhyun was really a pro, and the timing was just right. Jamuk sent another 100,000 won and invited Almond to stream together tomorrow. Sanhyun realized that Acorn was trying to subtly suggest a collaboration. The guy decides he should play along, so he pretends to think about the offer. The chat was flooded with comments recommending that he refuse, otherwise the guy would be cursed. Despite the seemingly negative comments, all viewers were looking forward to the joint stream. At that moment, another viewer sent 100,000 won and wrote that he would send another 100,000 won if Almond repeated his shot in a joint stream. Sanhyun realized that this message was the starting point, and the brunette accepted Jemuk's offer. The guy said that it would be an honor for him to do a joint stream with Acorn Jelly. Jemuk looked pleased with the situation. After the announcement that Acorn would be contacting Almond, a ton of excited comments poured into the chat. However, Sanhyun thought that Acorn made up the story about the perfect shot to get more views. Commentators wrote that Almond received a fairly large donation from Acorn, but he said nothing about it. Sanhyun read this and raised his bow, while the commentators realized where this was going and asked not to end the stream. The boy raised his bow again, aiming at the sky above his head. Sanhyun thanked everyone for their donations and said that it was time to end the game for today. The guy again spread his arms out to the sides and said goodbye to the audience. The next moment, the arrow fell right on his head again, ending the game. When the stream was over, Sanhyun came out of the capsule and sighed with relief. He thought he was going to die from the heat. The guy wondered if there was anything wrong with the fact that he ends his streams like this every time, because he doesn't feel very well. At this point, Ji-hyuk wrote a message saying that he liked Sanghyun's stream. The guy reminded Sanhyun that they had agreed to meet, record an interview and play on stream. The brunette looked at himself in the mirror, and only now remembered about the interview. The friends agreed on a meeting place, and Sanhyun went to read the comments on the stream on the Kingdom website. The guy glanced at the messages about his and Acorn Jelly's collab, and stopped at the video recording. Someone in the audience slowed down the stream recording so that you could clearly see how the arrow killed the boss in one shot. However, there were people who did not believe it and accused Sanhyun of shooting 2 arrows. Many people cited the fact that nothing could be seen in the video due to the distance. Sanhyun came across a comment that everything would become clear on tomorrow's joint stream. When they started discussing his appearance in real life, the guy lost interest and looked at his watch, thinking that it was time for him to eat. As Sanhyun was about to leave the room, his attention was caught by the ringing telephone. The guy picked up the phone and asked why Ji-hyuk was calling him if they had just talked. The manager told Sanhyun to watch a video of him on Altub, but the brunette said that he doesn't have an account on that app. Then Ji-hyuk told him that Acorn himself posted a teaser of their upcoming joint stream on his channel. Sanhyun was intrigued by this, so he immediately ran to watch the teaser video. The video featured clips from Almond's previous streams. There were plenty of perfect shot moments that took out everyone from the weakest enemies to bosses. Each of the strikes was accompanied by commentary from Acorn Jelly. The video was made at the highest level, which is what you would expect from a professional. The video also included moments from today's stream. A new skill with several arrows flashed, and also the final blow, which killed the boss with 1 shot to the head. The pictures change and then disappear, with Acorn Jelly asking if the perfect shot exists. The streamer suggests joining their stream tomorrow and finding out. There were a lot of comments under the video that said that everyone would be eagerly waiting for this stream to meet the newcomer that had caught Acorn Jelly's attention. Everyone who watched the video that day was delighted with the joint stream. The next day, Acorn Jelly's stream had a record number of viewers on all of Altube. The next day, Sanhyun and Jemuk met up in the studio to do a joint stream. Acorn was already preparing for the broadcast, and warned Sanhyun that they would need to show their faces and introduce themselves. Jemuk said that at the beginning of the stream there are usually 3,000 to 4,000 viewers, so Sanhyun can just stand aside for now. Ji-hyuk was also present during the broadcast, but he took his place next to Nayeon, watching everything from the viewers' side. Soon the guys took their places and the stream finally began. Although Jemuk said that there were usually around 4,000 viewers, now more than 10,000 have already joined them, which greatly surprised the guys. Acorn began answering some questions from the chat while Sanhyun watched from the side. The guy understands that Jemuk is doing this, so that as many people as possible will join the broadcast. Acorn said that everyone already knows about their guest today, and that today they will be demonstrating the perfect shot and checking if it really exists. After his words, the number of connections had already reached 40,000, which gave a signal to Jemuk to invite Sanhyun. Acorn extended his hand and invited Almond to join them. He introduced him as a popular genius archer. All the spectators were in anticipation, because they had never seen Almond's real face before. Sanhyun gathered his courage and walked closer to Jemuk, sitting down in his seat. With a smile on his face, the guy greeted the audience and introduced himself again. The chat was flooded with messages saying that Almond was very handsome, and some even started sending donations. Jemuk said that the guy was really handsome, and he himself was very surprised when he saw him for the first time. Many people started to rush the guys to start playing faster, but Jemuk asked them to treat the guest with respect. However, under the influx of messages, he gave in and said that it was time for them to get started. To enter all the data, Acorn asked Sanhyun for the optimization code. However, the brunette doesn't even know what it is, which leaves Jemuk stunned. Acorn said that the capsule's optimization code is needed to tune it to a person's brainwaves and body. Sanhyun said that he didn't know about it, and asked if it was really that important, which shocked Jemuk. Only now did Acorn realize that all this time Sanchun had been playing without optimization, which made completing quests much more difficult. At that moment, Jihyuk, who was sitting in the other corner of the room, jumped up in place. Seokyun had already warned Jihyuk about this, but he had completely forgotten about it. Coming closer to Acorn, Jihyuk told him that Sanhyuk really didn't know anything about it, since he forgot to tell him about it. Acorn couldn't believe it, and said that he now even felt a bit ashamed. Jemuk told viewers that Almond bought a used capsule and simply played without thinking about the details. There was a flurry of comments about how this was impossible, with some suggesting that this was what was causing Almond to be kicked out of the game. After reading the comments, Acorn asked if this had happened before during the game, and Sanhyun replied that it had. The brunette said that this always happens after he dies, but this amazed Jemuk even more since the game starts over after the player dies. The commentators explained this by saying that the guy didn't die, but simply got hit in the head by his own arrow, thereby disconnecting from the game. Acorn called Sanchun a genius, to which he replied that apparently that was indeed the case. Jemuk looked at the guy in shock and couldn't believe what was happening now. Acorn realized that Sanhyun is the typical genius that everyone wants. Plus, he looks like he has experience dealing with people. Looking at the brunette, Jemuk realizes that he is perfect for the stream, which makes him happy. Acorn suggested creating optimization code for Sanchun first, to which he immediately agreed. After a while, the scan was completed, and it took less time than Sanchun expected. Jemuk joined him in space and asked how the boy was feeling. Sanhyun said that he felt very light, as if there was no body at all, and Jemuk said that it should be like that, because this world is in their minds. Acorn came closer, and said that they had completed all preparations. Now it's time to start the game and finally find out if the legendary perfect shot exists. Jemuk announced the start of the game and the guys began to be transferred into the game. The boys found themselves in the game and immediately heard that Lady Amelia had assigned another task to the mercenaries. Roman said that there is a goblin cave not far from here, because of which the farmers have no life, so they must find this cave and destroy all the monsters. The captain said that they had not received such a good assignment for a long time, so they should try hard. The road was not short, so it took quite a long time. They had to travel in a cart, but it was convenient for Acorn and Almond. Acorn said he would tell the boy the conditions for the perfect shot. Jemuk said that the game has a scoring system and depending on where the hit lands, points are awarded. And the condition for a perfect shot is to hit the exact center. It was very similar to archery in competition, so Sanchun asked about the second condition. Acorn said it was very difficult to perform, because it meant you only had one shot to hit the perfect shot. Sanchun didn't take it seriously, and said that he understood everything. Now he knows why this shot is called perfect. Acorn was shocked by his reaction, because Sanhyun acted as if he didn't care about it. Jemuk thought that the guy was reacting like that because he had managed to make a perfect shot before, so there would be no problem. While Acorn was thinking about his own, Roman came up behind him and hit him on the head, which greatly surprised Sanchun, who had never encountered such behavior from the captain before. Roman asked why Acorn hadn't come out yet, even though they had already arrived at the place. Roman looked at Acorn with anger and continued to scold him and threaten him with violence. At some point, the flow of abuse stopped and the captain froze for a moment. The next second he turned his gaze to Almond and smiled again. Roman wished Sanchun good luck, to which Acorn complained, because they speak to him differently. Soon a squad of mercenaries approached the cave with goblins. Acorn hid in the bushes nearby and asked if the audience was ready to see the show. But before he could finish speaking, Roman hit him on the head with his fist again. The captain ordered Acorn to shut up if he was going to help them. Roman asked Almond to show the newbie what a real surprise attack was. For a while there was silence in the air, broken only by the sounds made by the goblins themselves. Sanchun crept through the bushes to a convenient area for him. The guy felt that due to the optimization, his body began to move more easily, and that unpleasant feeling completely evaporated. Sanchun hid in the bushes and pulled the bowstring, preparing to fire the first shot. Acorn watched him from the side in surprise, and did not understand why the guy chose this particular position. However, no matter how impossible it may seem, Acorn is confident that the guy will cope. And for good reason, as Almond once again demonstrated a perfect hit. Acorn was genuinely amazed by what he saw, because now he was watching all this not through a computer screen. For Sanchun, this shot was not unusual, so he continued shooting without thinking. All subsequent arrows easily hit the goblins in the heads, killing them on the spot. Watching from the sidelines, Acorn noticed that due to the optimization, Sanhyun began to play even better than before. The brunette even managed to make his shot quieter in order to shoot from an ambush. Acorn was truly amazed by Almond's abilities. In addition to his monstrous physical characteristics, the guy has a special trait that can be seen in his speech and behavior. Now Acorn sees that the guy seems to be standing in rays of light. Finally, Almond finished his series of strikes, killing the last goblin in sight. Acorn is confident that thanks to the optimization, Sanchin no longer has a problem making the perfect shot. After some time, the game announced that all the goblin guards had been destroyed. Roman praised Almond for his work, while Gemma couldn't get over what he saw. The guy thought that at this stage all the mercenaries should have worked together, but this time, Sanchin managed alone. Gemuk turned to the audience and said that every shot was perfect, but the commentators didn't believe him. Roman ordered the mercenaries to start a fire and seal off the exit from the cave, so that all the remaining goblins would suffocate inside. The mercenaries moved closer to the entrance and began to make fire under the clear direction of the captain. Before they had time to block the entrance to the burning cave with stones, a menacing roar was heard from its depths. A large monster was emerging from the depths of the cave towards them. The goblin boss's eyes glowed red in the darkness of the cave. This monster was much larger than its minions and surpassed any man in height. Frightened by the sudden appearance of the boss, one of the mercenaries who had been making a fire fell and began to crawl back. Roman ordered everyone to prepare for battle, while some commentators got excited about the stream and wished for Sanhyun to hit the boss with a perfect shot. The goblin boss approached the mercenaries' first line of defense and prepared to strike. In front of everyone stood Gemuk, who with a smile on his face told Sanhyun to hit the target on the first try and right in the center. The commentators were eagerly awaiting the outcome of the battle. Sanchin did not get distracted from the game and took an arrow out of his quiver, taking aim. However, the shot never happened, as something unusual caught the brunette's attention. He lowered his bow, causing indignation and questions from the commentators. Viewers wrote that Sanhyun was afraid that he wouldn't be able to cope, but the problem was that the goblin had an iron mask on his head. The guy realized that there was no point in aiming at the head, since it was protected, so he thought about choosing another point for the strike. However, after thinking about it, Sanchin came to the conclusion that no other point on the body would produce a perfect shot. In this case, the guy made another decision, which he considered correct, and pointed the bow upward. Sanchin launched an arrow into the sky, which raised a lot of questions from the viewers, and someone even asked if they had been sent a donation of 100,000. The arrow continued to rise high into the sky, just like it had done before when the guy interrupted his streams. Having reached the highest point, the arrow turned downwards and began to fall. Sanchin looked at the arrow and thought that in order to make a perfect shot, he had to hit a vital point. Contrary to the expectations of the audience, this time the arrow flew not towards the guy, but towards the goblin. The arrow approached the boss from behind, because a vital point can be hit not only from the forehead, but also from the back. Thanks to his excellent skills, Sanchin was able to hit the back of the goblin's head precisely. The commentators, like Roman and the mercenaries, watched what was happening with bated breath. Gemuk looked at the boss and waited to see what would happen next, whether the monster would fall, or whether that shot had killed him. Sanchin looked at the goblin and did not take his sharp gaze away. After a few seconds, the monster began to fall backwards. Under the surprised gaze of the mercenaries, the goblin fell dead. At the place where he fell, a hole formed in the ground. The mercenary squad with Roman and Gemuk approached closer to make sure that the goblin was destroyed. The next moment, Gemuk fell to his knees and screamed joyfully, and commentators began writing that his wish had finally come true. One of the viewers sent the guys a donation of 200,000 won with congratulations. While Gemuk continued to cry with joy, Sanhyun thanked the viewer for the donation. Notifications started coming one after another, which greatly surprised the brunette. Viewers started sending donations of different amounts one after another. After a while, the guys finished the stream, and after waking up, Sanhyun noticed that he was still sweating heavily. The guy suggested that even the expensive capsules don't have a proper ventilation system, while Gemuk went to brag to Nayeon. The boy happily jumped around the girl, who stood as if she had no chance of leaving, and endured Gemuk's childishness. Nayeon reported that the stream was cut off due to overload caused by the chat and the flow of donations. Ji-hyuk approached the guys and said that the game was frozen, but the stream was still going on, so they could continue the interview and get even more donations. Gemuk liked the idea and was eager to make it a reality. Sanhyun asked her to wait while he went away and dried his hair, but Nayeon said that the guy looked good as is. A minute later, the guys appeared in front of the cameras again and greeted the audience. Acorn now looked pleased that he had been able to prove his theory about the existence of the perfect shot. Sanhyun smiled at the camera and said he actually knew nothing about the perfect shot. Someone wrote that Gemuk was crying after the game screen went black, but the guy denied it. At that very moment, A lot of donations poured into the chat, which greatly surprised the guys. And Acorn said that he wouldn't have time to read them all. Instead, Jemuk decided to thank them all at once. Away from the guys, Nayeon and Jihyuk were watching what was happening. Jihyuk noticed that more than 1,000 people had already left donations, but he couldn't even imagine a specific amount. In an instant, the faces of everyone in the room changed. A viewer with the nickname Seo sent a donation of 1,000,000 won. Sanchin froze, because he had never seen anyone send such an amount as a donation. His manager couldn't believe what he saw either. Along with them, Jemuk was also surprised, since in his entire history of streaming, he had never received such an amount. However, the donation included a message asking people to tell Almond that he was handsome. The next moment, the viewer sent another donation with the same amount and message, which surprised the guys even more. Commentators began to laugh at the fact that all the donations went exclusively to Almond. Before the broadcast, Jemuk made a list of questions and put it to a vote. But he was not very pleased with the results, since all the first places were taken by questions about Sanhyun's personal life. While Jemuk was indignant, Sanhyun began to answer questions, and said that he does not use any special care, and does not use tint either. Despite all these strange questions, although the guy felt awkward, he liked this attention. Being in the center of all these events, the guy felt very good. For a while longer, Sanhyun and Jemuk answered questions from the chat, and had a fun time discussing the game. During all this time, Sanhyun realized that he really enjoyed playing games on stream. The guy thinks it suits him very well. When the sun began to set, the guys decided it was time to finish. Nayeon handed a towel to the sweaty Sanhyun and said that he was sweating so much because he didn't have a proper cooling system. Jemuk disagreed with her and suggested that it was because Sanhyun was concentrating so much while playing. Jemuk once again thanked the guys for their cooperation and said that this is the first time he has seen such a response on the stream. Jihyuk thanked the guys in return and handed them a gift in honor of their cooperation, which made Nayeon and Jemuk happy. Sanhyun thought that his manager was really good at collaboration, because he himself would never have thought of this. Jemuk said that they needed to talk while Nayeon prepared everything. Turning the tablet towards Sanhyun and Jihyuk, the guy showed them the total amount he received from the stream. There was silence in the room for a while, but then it was filled with surprised cries, because the total revenue amounted to 5,360,000 won. Sanchin expected that the amount of donations would be large thanks to Acorn, but he did not expect the amount of 5 million. Jihyuk asked if the guys always managed to get such an amount, to which Jemuk replied that it was the first time he saw such a thing. At this time, Nayeon brought the boys drinks, and said that if they split it in half, they would get 2,700,000 won each. Jihyuk and Sanhyun were shocked by the amount. The boys immediately started bowing and thanking Jemuk and Nayeon for their work, but the guy replied that it was all thanks to them. Jemuk said that even 500,000 won on a joint stream was already a big jackpot. And these words made Jihyuk convinced that donations were not the main source of income for gamers. Jihyuk decided to ask the guy directly how he makes money. Jemuk replied that the main source of income is advertising, and the income depends on the number of viewers. Nain, in turn, is engaged in attracting third-party advertisers not related to gaming activities. Pointing to a t-shirt with the logo on Jemuk, the girl says that he advertises not only games, but also clothing and gaming equipment. Jihyuk compared it to what celebrities do in normal times, to which the girl agreed. Nayeon said that the handsome guys get most of their income from donations, but the likes of Jemuk are left with nothing but advertising. Jemuk and Nayeon started arguing again while Sangyun watched them, and Jihyuk tried not to laugh too loudly. At some point, the girl turned her attention to Sanhyun and said that he can sometimes act like a celebrity. Jemuk looked at Nayeon and didn't understand why she was saying something that was different from what the girl had said before. Sanhyun thanked the girl for the compliment and said that he would like to only do games in the future. The girl calmed him down, saying that she had only suggested options on how he could earn money. Jemuk said that if Sanhyun is into streaming, then increasing his side activities is also important. For example, a streamer with the nickname Horn, in addition to streaming games, also works in the entertainment industry and appears on various shows. Jemuk also suggested starting a channel on Altub to stream as fan service for communication. Nayeon said that streamers can be divided into two groups, with the bulk of them focused on creating content for Altub. There are also streamers who occupy a narrower niche, as they stream on Tribe. Nayeon advised Sanhyun to consider moving to a wider field while he is currently occupying a small niche. Jemuk said that in order to run such streams, you need to have a good editor, but Jihyuk has no experience in this area. Jemuk advised them not to rush in this case and try to find an editor on the side. The guys sat in the cafe for a while longer and exchanged ideas and shared experiences. But soon they decided to go their separate ways. After going down to the parking lot, Jaemook and Sanhyun shook hands again and thanked each other for their cooperation. Jaemook suggested that the guy organize another joint stream in the future. Jaemook thought that the next time they met, Sanhyun would already be much ahead of him. But the guy wasn't upset by this. He would have been glad to see it, because Sanhyun appeared before him as an amazing person. Jaemook and Nayeon stood in the parking lot for a while, watching the car. The guy said that he was as far away from Sanhyun's talent as he was from China, and Nayeon complained that she was cold and suggested going inside the building. After some time, Ji-hyuk gave Sanhyun a ride home, for which the brunette thanked him. As Sanhyun was about to leave, the manager called him, forcing him to stop. Ji-hyuk saw that the brunette was thinking hard about Altub and Treeby, but he recommended his friend not to rush into making a decision. The guy said that Sanhyun is very talented, so he will definitely be successful in everything he does. The friend's words encouraged the brunette and made him smile. Sanhyun thanks Ji-hyuk for his advice and heads towards home. This area of the city was densely built up, so Ji-hyuk was unable to take Sanhyun directly to the house. The guy had to walk up the stairs to his house. Sanhyun said it was starting to get cold. The brunette remembered how he saw his grandmother off, because in winter the stairs are covered with ice and it is very difficult to climb them. These memories made Sanhyun think. Looking down at his feet, the boy told his grandmother that he had earned 2,700,000 won today. Despite his words, Ji-hyuk did not take a penny from this money. Grandma was not there with Sanhyun, but he continued on his way, saying that he would continue doing this because he liked it. Besides, the main reason for streaming was that it stopped his hand from shaking. But no matter how much the guy wanted it, he could only feel it when he was in the capsule. That car accident was a terrible memory not only for Sanhyun, but also for his grandmother. The boy remembers his grandmother's wrinkled eyes when she cried alone, hiding from everyone. She didn't know that every time next to her, out of her sight, Sanhyun was also crying bitterly. His right hand is more than just a nightmarish memory. She is the most hated part of the body, which caused Grandma a lot of pain, and at the same time, she always accompanies Sanhyun in everything. But now, thanks to the games, the guy can pull her bowstring again. Sanhyun raised his head and said that Grandma would faint if she saw him now. Now the guy is surrounded by many good people who help him, and it feels like they were sent to him by his grandmother. A tear ran down Sanhyun's cheek, as the boy doesn't know how to repay them all for all the good things they do for him. The boy stopped to wipe the tears from his face. Sanhyun is going to do everything he can, but he thinks that it might be too late. At some point, a memory of his grandmother beating him and telling him that if he was late, he should work harder popped into the boy's head. These memories made Sanhyun smile and say that he will try his best. But the guy feels very sorry because his grandmother will no longer be able to see all of this. And this is what Sanhyun regrets more than anything else in the world. After some time, a video from the stream was posted online, which caused a stir in the comments. Seeing the comments that included both surprise and criticism, Jaemook thought that it really was a good stream. Jaemook said that this is the first time that a post about this game has made it into the top 10 on the forum. Nayeon said the video was really good, but the guy didn't understand what she was talking about because they didn't post anything. Nayeon responded that a video from the stream had appeared in the editing community and offered to send a link to it. After watching the video, Jaemook was even more surprised. The guy knew that Sanhyun was a very lucky person, but he didn't think he was that lucky. Sanhyun's main problem was that he didn't have a good editor. But such a person himself became interested in the brunette and made a video. The next morning, birds were chirping under the windows of Sanhyun's house. The guy had just finished taking his morning shower. Sanhyun wiped his hair and thought about how he had put all the information they had been able to obtain yesterday into order. Thus, streamers have two main schemes for earning money. The first part consisted of donations from streams, and the second consisted of profit from advertising, proportional to the number of viewers. There is also an option to upload edited videos to Altub and then it will bring you a profit. Among all the options, Sanchenu is most suited to the so-called star style, which is often practiced on the Altuba. Ji-hyuk also thinks that Sanhyun is not very similar to Jaemook and would be better able to handle what Horn does. That day, on the way home, Ji-hyuk was already fired up with the idea of promoting Sanhyun in a star-like style. However, according to the brunette, Horn's style is fundamentally different from his, and most likely, the manager was talking specifically about his style of earning money. All these thoughts had been swarming in Sanhyun's head since the morning, so the guy walked around the apartment with the same words. The guy came to the only conclusion that he needed an editor, so he sat down at the computer and started looking for information. Thus, Sanhyun came across a movie about an archer from Kingdom that had been trending for 17 hours already. It was only after the guy started the video that it dawned on him that the video was about him. The first thing Sanhyun noticed was the nickname of the author of the video. His nickname was Seo, which made the brunette wonder if this was the same person who sent the $1,000,000 donation. The video that San-hyun watched was very different from anything the boy had seen before. The music in the background slowly faded in to match the footage from the game. The video started with San-hyun accompanying a nobleman as part of the mercenaries. Roman's voice in the background informed Milady that the bandits were scattered throughout the mountain range. The mercenary captain suggested sending a squad to destroy the bandits. At this moment, the leader of the first attack of the mounted bandits appeared in the frame. He was rapidly approaching the detachment with the aim of breaking up their formation. San-hyun watched with bated breath as ordinary footage from the game was transformed into a masterful film. The guy noticed that the background music, the color rendition, and even the editing seemed to complement the plot. It seemed as if San-hyun was watching a movie about himself. The shots of the bandits were tinted with redder tones, creating a contrast with the soft blue tones framing the shots of San-hyun. They flowed smoothly, creating a feeling of complete immersion in the Kingdom universe. Each bow pose was meticulously crafted not only through San-hyun's skills, but also through clever editing. Every single element, even the smallest one, was played out correctly and fit into the concept of the video. The candors followed the released arrows softly. Each of San-hyun's hits was played out from different angles. They conveyed the lively atmosphere of the game and turned the cold and indifferent look into a bright and dynamic one. The last card was with San-hyun catching his breath after a perfect shot. After watching the video, even San-hyun himself couldn't believe that it was him in the footage, as the acting was top-notch. Many commentators were interested in the game, but those in the know wrote that there was no point in starting to play, since only Almond could shoot like that. All the comments on the video were pretty good, which prompted San-hyun to call Ji-hyuk. The guy reached out to the phone lying nearby but didn't have time to dial as a notification came on the phone. The message was from Ji-hyuk, with an attached video that Sang-hyun had just watched. San-hyun was worried that he didn't have enough money to pay the manager yet, but Ji-hyuk told him not to worry about it. The brunette chuckled, as his manager was truly an amazing person. San-hyun got up to warm up before the game in the capsule, as he couldn't throw the game away when he had such a reliable manager. Having warmed up well, San-hyun sat in the capsule and launched it. The guy looked at the recommendations and realized that his physical data was very different from other players, which means that he needs to work on it. The program asked what difficulty level San-hyun chooses for training, and he indicated the maximum. 3 hours later, his training was over. The guy was sweating heavily again and decided to drink some cold milk. San-hyun looked at the time and realized that he needed to eat quickly and start streaming soon. He had no choice but to quickly snack on some nuts. While the guy was having a snack, he thought that there should have been a lot of comments about the joint stream with Acorn by now. However, San-hyun was concerned about what the audience's initial reaction might be. After a while, the guy sat back in the capsule and started the stream. Meanwhile, in the office of the game developer's main building, the atmosphere was oppressive. The developer of the Game Kingdom was saddened that the game was not rising in chats. The Punk Company is the largest domestic distributor of games. Even at the creation stage, the developer understood that this genre would not be commercially successful, but did not expect that everything would be so bad. However, according to experts, everything should have improved. The man thought that it would be possible to make an event to attract new players, but no one would do that for a game that doesn't sell. The only chance to get out of this situation is to find some top player who wants to play in Kingdom. The man sighed because there would be no such player, since this game could not even be included in the list for esports. The man decided to look for information about the latest events in the Game Kingdom to understand how the game could be revived. The first thing that caught my eye was a video of Archer Almond. The man saw it for the first time, so he decided to see what was so famous in the Kingdom lately. The man noted that the quality and editing were amazing, but this man's acting was inimitable. His skills are unmatched. The man started looking for information about this player, because he had never seen him on the list of streamers before. The man soon realized why he had never heard of Almond before. This streamer was new to the game, and his first game was Kingdom. The guy was not only a capable but also a talented streamer. The guy's popularity grew incredibly fast. The man also watched a video of Almond and Jelly's joint stream. Thus, the man learned that the guy was not only talented, but also very handsome. The man realized that this was what he had been looking for a long time, and out of emotion he hit the table, thereby frightening his colleagues. The man decided to watch the newcomer for a while, and was happy to learn that Almond had decided to start streaming right now. The developer was happy with this opportunity, because he would be able to watch the guy play live. The first thing that caught the man's eye was the number of spectators. At first he found it strange that the chat was so lively. However, this was explained by the fact that in the first seconds, more than 1,000 viewers connected to the stream. Viewers asked why Almond remained silent, but he could not get over what he had seen. During the time he was silent, A couple hundred more viewers joined him, and they continued to come. Ji-hyuk watched the stream from home and thought that it didn't matter what exactly gave him such a boost. The main thing is that once they crossed the 1,000-person barrier, San-hyun became a full-time streamer. The chat was going crazy as San-hyun remained silent. The guy remembered that they had 50,000 viewers on their joint stream, and everything went without problems, which meant that the guys organized everything well. Because of this, San-hyun began to worry about whether he would be able to handle all of this alone. The guy collected his thoughts and greeted the audience, thanking them for the warm welcome. Reading the comments, San-hyun realized that most of the viewers were newcomers who came just to see the guy's face. Longtime subscribers of the brunette reported that the guy always streams without a camera. At that moment, a message from the manager with a link to the photos arrived in the personal chat. The file contained photos of San-hyun from the stream. Each of the photographs was commented on by many viewers. San-hyun was called a talent that major agencies lack. The guy told the manager that he most likely just wanted to attract attention, but San-hyun admitted that he really liked it, and the manager told him to just turn on the camera. The guy gave in to persuasion and turned on the camera on the stream, greeting the viewers. One after another, donations started coming in with messages that the guy was handsome. San-hyun read everything out loud and thanked the audience. The guy said they didn't have time, so it was time to start the game. San-hyun was transported into the game and found himself at the moment where Amelia praises Almond for his abilities and thanks him for destroying the goblins. The girl was beautiful, which was supported by commentators, who said that their hearts trembled before Amelia's beauty. San-hyun decides not to take all the credit for himself, and says that there were still people with him. However, the girl did not listen to him, and took his hand, saying that Roman had told her everything. Commentators began writing a lot of messages about the fact that Amelia had never held anyone's hand before in the game. Squeezing Almond's hand in hers, the girl said that she had one more task for the boy. San-hyun asked why the girl didn't tell Roman about this, but she replied that she and the captain wanted Almond to go on the test alone. Amelia pointed towards the majestic castle, and the guy thought that if this was a solo mission, then everything shouldn't be that difficult. However, the next moment the girl's face changed, and she said that Almond must kill the lord of that castle. San-hyun was shocked by such a difficult task, and did not understand how everything came to this. San-hyun asked how often the lord left the castle, to which the girl replied that the guy needed to get inside the castle. The commentators were also surprised by this task, and thought that the power level determinator was broken. A moment later, the girl grabbed the guy's hand again and said that she believed in him. Following her words, several commenters sent donations with words of support. A sign appeared in front of San-hyun asking whether he wanted to accept this task or refuse. At this time, the developer was watching the stream and thinking about the current situation. The man has played Kingdom many times, but completing this quest with a bow is simply impossible. Commentators wrote that San-hyun would not be able to handle this task, and the man agreed with them. Sieges in Kingdom are famous for being incredibly difficult, as you have to climb walls. The artificial intelligence of the enemies is so advanced that as soon as they detect the player, he will immediately find himself surrounded. But even though capturing a fortress is more difficult than crossing the border between North and South Korea, there is another difficulty. Lord Talleyrand is clad in armor from head to toe, making him impossible for an archer to kill. However, the developer wondered what would happen if Almond actually managed to pass this test with a bow. Almond is undoubtedly talented and handsome, but in this field that alone is not enough to become a star. To do this, he needs a little magic. San-hyun thought about the task for a while, then accepted it. Amelia said that she had known his answer for a long time. The commentators supported San-hyun and said that now they had to go to certain death. The guy thought about the fact that he needed to complete this quest to achieve success, because if he was going to retreat, he would not have started at all. San-hyun said that historically, medieval castles are not as big as they are commonly believed to be, and there are about 50 people in them. Amelia continued to look at Almond, waiting for him to take action. San-hyun looked towards the castle and said that he could handle this task, causing the commentators to start making fun of him. However, San-hyun was more interested in why the girl gave the order for someone's death. Even though the girl is a game character, she doesn't seem like the type of person who would hate or harm others. San-hyun's character himself asked the question about what the lord of this castle had done wrong. This was part of the game's story, so San-hyun had little control over the character's actions at that moment. Amelia replied that Lord Talleyrand had enslaved his people. He gave people money on security at extortionate interest rates and forced them to repay the debt, thereby turning them into slaves for the rest of their days. Talleyrand was not ashamed to do this not only to men, but also to women and children. Amelia believes that if the Lord dies, her family will be able to take care of the people. The girl would prefer to start a war, but there is no compelling reason for her to do so. After a moment of silence, Amelia asked if Almond was satisfied with this answer. The guy bowed to the girl and said that he understood everything. He promised Amelia that he would complete this task. To capture the fortress, Sanshin had to wait until late at night. Hiding in the bushes, the boy asked the audience if the game could detect when he was talking to himself. The comments said that this was possible, and recommended that the guy change the game settings. The guy was determined to make the game as realistic as possible, so he decided not to change anything. All this time the boy was in a cornfield, not far from the castle walls. Coming out of hiding, the guy headed towards the castle. Commentators were amazed at how silently the boy moved through the cornfield. Longtime viewers noticed that the guy began to move much better than before. Some began to speculate that it was due to good optimization, but others insisted that the guy had an innate, extraordinary ability to concentrate. Sanshin thought that he too felt changes in his movements, and only the guy himself guessed that this was connected with the 3-hour training he had done before the stream. After some time, he managed to get closer to the castle walls. The cornfield was almost flush with the walls, thus creating a reliable shelter from the eyes of the guards on the wall for Sanshin. As soon as the guards passed along the wall, the guy silently jumped out of hiding and ran closer to the stone wall. Sanhyun pressed his back against her and stopped to catch his breath and come up with a plan of action. The guy has already gone far, and now he needs to figure out how to get over the wall unnoticed. From the lights on the wall, Sanshin realized that there were 2 guards nearby. But if the guy attacked thoughtlessly, they would call for reinforcements. In one book, the guy read that you need to sneak up on a guard from behind, clamp his mouth, pull him aside, and then kill him silently. San Hyun has a reasonable assessment of his abilities, so he is not confident that he can handle another type of weapon. The guy pulled out an arrow, after which the commentators asked him if the guy was really going to shoot a bow. Viewers wrote that at this rate he will be exposed quickly, unless he has the ability to kill 2 guards at once. Sanshin raised his head to the sky and thought about their words. At that moment, an idea came to him, and he said that he had a plan. The guy pulled the bowstring and said that there was one way to get rid of the guards at once. Sanshin has the ability to kill them with 1 shot to the head. Commentators started writing that he wouldn't be able to pull it off because he was playing in Kingdom and not filming in Hollywood. Sanshin ignored all these comments and moved away from the wall, taking aim. The guy didn't think that something might not work out for him. He was confident of victory. Sanhyun decides to kill the guard on the left first, so that the arrow's trajectory is longer, and its landing is slower. The guy pulled the bowstring as tight as possible to make the shot very powerful. Before the audience could figure out what exactly Sanshin was planning, the arrow had already taken flight. Sanshin watched the movements of the guards on the wall carefully. Seizing the moment, the guy took another arrow from his quiver and aimed at the guard on the right. The guy waited for the moment when the first arrow would turn in the air and head downwards. All this time he stood in combat readiness and aimed at the second guard. Finally, the first arrow began to fall right towards the guard's head. It was this moment that Sanshin chose to fire his second shot. The arrows hit 2 guards with precision at the same time, one from above, the other from below. Thanks to this, the danger was eliminated, and no one could signal an invasion anymore. Comments began to arrive in the chat admiring Sanshin's abilities. The guy, in turn, did not pay attention to them and only looked at the wall to see if there was anyone else on it. Several viewers sent donations, for which Sanshin thanked them. Someone wrote that most likely even the developers did not expect such a turn of events. They were right, because one of the developers was now watching the game and couldn't believe what he saw. For the man, this was truly a complete surprise. The man has been working in the field of game distribution for many years, and has seen countless players, but he has never met anyone like Almond. The developer immediately decided to contact management. He told the director that he wanted to arrange a meeting, and said that he would send a dossier on the new streamer with all the details. The man sincerely believes that they cannot let the guy go, and must get him at any cost. Sanshin, meanwhile, continued to move forward. It took him a long time to climb up the wall. Sanshin did not have any special equipment, which made the task much more difficult. Once at the top, it took him some time to catch his breath. Sanshin said that this game is pure hell, except for the archery that keeps it interesting. Some commentators suggested that the guy was training before the stream, which was the case. Sanshin said that they needed to remove the bodies first, but he was distracted by the sound of footsteps. Another guard was approaching him. Before anyone could notice him, Sanshin disappeared from sight, and the guard didn't understand where everyone had gone. The guard continued on his way, thinking that the guards had gone to bed somewhere again. However, the man was inattentive, because on one of the cannons there was Sanshin, ready to strike at any moment. No one noticed that the 3 guards had disappeared from their posts. This time the shot hit the throat, so that the guard did not have time to utter a word. Sanhyun continued to put the bodies in a secluded place, and viewers wrote that everything was too easy for the guy. The guy agreed that even a good marksman couldn't handle close combat, especially when there were a lot of enemies. Sanchin walked to the edge of the wall and looked at the castle courtyard, trying to come up with a plan of action. After some time, an idea appeared in the guy's head on how to get through the yard unnoticed. The guy changed into the guard's clothes, but he didn't think it would be so uncomfortable. Sanchin approached the armory to replenish his supply of arrows and move on. Because the guy was dressed in a guard uniform, no one paid attention to him. However, as soon as he opened the door and entered the armory, one of the guards stopped him. The man wanted to ask what he was doing there, but before he could voice his question, an arrow flew straight into his head. These actions did not go unnoticed by the people on the castle walls. Commentators began to write that they had been exposed, and the plan had failed. At that moment, Sanchin was overcome with nostalgia, because it all resembled the archery competition where he once shone. In those moments, he seemed to fall out of reality, completely concentrating on the target in front of his eyes. After this complex world acquired unprecedented clarity. Sanchin understood that in this world he had only two outcomes, hit or miss. Before the guard could give the signal, Sanchin's arrow caught him. The guy knew that until then, he had a choice between hitting and missing. He would develop to unimaginable heights. Sanchin put the bow behind his back and ran in the opposite direction from the warehouse. The guy's actions were no longer secretive, which caused a wave of indignation from viewers. Sanhen was discovered by another guard, but this time the arrow only hit him in the leg, forcing him to stop the pursuit. Spectators thought the guy missed because he became nervous and lost concentration. Several more guards ran up to the wounded man, and the commentators wrote that this was where Almond's mission failed. Sanchin continued moving in his direction, ignoring the comments and guards. Having run to the side, the guy tried to increase the distance to carry out the maneuver. Seizing the moment, Sanchin turned around on the spot and took out his bow to take aim. The first arrow killed the guard who was chasing him, hitting him in the head. The second guy was helping the man with a wounded leg to get up, so he didn't have time to understand what had happened. The second and third arrows quickly caught up with them, causing the spectators to realize that the shot in the leg was intended to be a decoy. After a while, everything outside was cleared, so all that was left was to get inside. Sanchin crept up the wall but was immediately spotted. Before the guard could do anything, an arrow hit him right in the head. The problem, however, was that there was not just one person on the wall, but several. The survivors immediately gave the signal for the invasion by blowing a horn. Another couple dozen guards arrived at the call. Weapons of various kinds were aimed towards Sanchin in an instant. However, despite all the comments that the guy lost, Sanhyun himself remained calm, as if everything was going according to plan. He was faced with a big problem that he probably couldn't handle alone. However, Sanhyun doesn't show a shadow of fear. The squad rushed towards the guy, who pulled back his bowstring, ready to enter the battle. Sanhyun was calm because he had a special skill called sequential shooting that allowed him to attack multiple targets at once. It was very inconvenient to take out one arrow at a time from the quiver on my back. Sanchin decided to take out all the arrows and stick them into the floor next to him. Thus, he further sped up his operations by simplifying the system of changing arrows. Thanks to this, the arrows hit the guards one after another, leaving them no opportunity to get closer. Seeing such pressure from the enemy, the guards began to panic. They no longer sought to approach the guy, and remained on the sidelines. However, this did not help them escape their fate. One of the guards saw how all his comrades fell dead from precise hits to the head. His hands began to shake, either from fear or from anger. The next moment, the boy called Sanhyun a monster and told the others to run away. No one wanted to stay near the archer, as he spared no one. When the guard looked back, he saw Sanchin chasing them. The guy collected the arrows and caught up with the fleeing guards. They, in turn, screamed and tried to hide from their pursuer. The commentators didn't understand why the guy was catching up with them, since it wouldn't be possible to shoot while running. However, we are talking about Sanchin, which means that nothing is impossible for him. The most important thing for him is not that his hand doesn't shake while playing, but that his concentration is unwavering. One after another, Sanchin continued to shoot arrows. Each of them unerringly reached their target, killing one guard after another. One of the sufferers looked back and was scared to the point of hiccups. Tears began to flow from his eyes and he was about to beg for mercy. But he didn't have time to say these words, because he became the next target. The arrow hit him in the head, and the boy fell to the ground motionless. After some time, Sanchin managed to catch up with all the guards and eliminate them. The long run left the boy sweating and tired. However, he was pleased with the result, and asked the audience what they thought of this turn of events. The chat was filled with many admiring comments and several donations, which made the guy happy. Sanchin thought that his business was now going well, but he has not yet completed the main task, so it is time to visit the lord of this castle. Sanchin headed towards the main entrance of the castle, with a trail of blood following him. The guy opened the massive door and entered the large hall. His gaze turned to the man in armor sitting on the throne with a large sword in his hands. Initially, San Yun thought that the lord would look like an ordinary man resting on his money. However, this man exuded the atmosphere of the game, indicating that he was the boss. Sanchin said that the lord looked like he was prepared for his arrival, but still did not come out to help his men. The commentators laughed at the fact that the guy himself gave away his plan, at the moment when something rushed past Sanchin at high speed. Right next to the guy, a giant sword was sticking out of the wall, which miraculously did not hit Sanchin. It was the sword that the lord had held in his hands just a second ago. The boss asked if the guy really dared to come to him in splendid isolation. Sanchin thought that the man had monstrous strength, since he could easily throw a giant sword. Sanchin took out an arrow and pulled the bowstring, taking aim, but froze in place. The comments started laughing at him, because after all this time, the guy only now noticed an important detail. The problem was that the armor on the lord was impossible to penetrate. The lord raised his hand and made an inviting gesture. An unknown person in armor began to emerge from the shadows of the hall towards them. Several knights emerged from the shadows of the hall and headed towards Sanchin. Each of them was equipped in the same way as their lord, making them an unattainable target for Sanchin. The brunette stood in place and tried to come up with a plan for further action. Sanchin thought that the sword that the lord had thrown at him not long ago would suit him, but he didn't know how to use such a weapon. The guy understood that all this was risky, because with a bow, he would not be able to break through and defeat the enemy. Sanchin did not give up, because if there is a choice of weapons, then there is a way to complete the task. The guy pulled the bowstring again and began to look closely at the knights. It was impossible to miss even the slightest detail, because they could contain a clue to the solution. All you had to do was focus on your opponent's movements. A few seconds later, a plan appeared in Sanchin's head. The knights quickly approached him, but did not understand why the guy was inactive. The lord watched the proceedings carefully from his throne. Suddenly a smile appeared on Sanchin's face. One of the knights decided to act and approached the guy closely. The knight raised his sword, ready to deliver a crushing blow. However, Sanchin easily dodged it, continuing to closely watch the knight's actions. Catching the right moment, the guy pulled the bowstring and fired. The arrow flew over the knight's head, hitting the helmet's ring, causing it to fly off the man's head. Commentators couldn't believe that the guy not only noticed such a small detail, but also quickly came up with a plan. The rest of the knights froze in place, not understanding how this could have happened. Sanchin took advantage of their distraction and fired a couple more times. The helmets flew off the knights' heads one after another. The helmet of the very first knight scratched his face, which made the man very angry. Driven by anger and a thirst for revenge, the knight rushed at Sanchin. The man swung his sword and struck with a backhand. However, Sanchin leaned back, dodging the blow, and pulled back the bowstring. When the blow missed, the boy released the bowstring, sending the arrow flying. She accurately hit the knight right in the forehead. The remaining knights rushed towards the archer, with the aim of eliminating him. However, Sanchin was faster, so for them it was already over. 2 arrows pierced their heads at great speed. The bodies of the lifeless knights fell to the floor. Now only Sanchin and the lord, who continued to sit in his place, remained in the hall. Sanchin, in turn, was thinking about how to deal with the enemy. The lord praised Sanchin and rose from his seat, revealing that his helmet did not have a loop like the knights had. The lord approached the archer, swinging his giant sword with ease. Sanchin, in turn, thought that the condition of 3 hits to the head had been met, and now all that was left was to make sure. Before entering the battle, the guy studied a new method, but he doesn't know if it will really work. San Hyun prepared for battle by activating the sequential shooting skill. The boy stuck all the arrows into the ground again to make it easier to take them during the fight. Commentators didn't understand why he was doing this. The lord walked to the center of the hall and prepared for battle. The lord said that Sanchin was pathetic for thinking that his arrows could hit him. Commentators agreed with him, and began to write that Sanchin had made a mistake in his choice of weapon. However, Sanchin was ready for battle, as he had already come up with a plan of action. On the lord's armor, right in the area of the heart, the metal was worn away, which created a place for a blow. Sanchin took a stance and had no intention of responding to the lord's words. The lord walked slowly but surely towards the archer, telling him that he could not be defeated with a bow. The lord made threatening speeches, trying to lower the opponent's fighting spirit. But in an instant, an arrow was sent straight to his weak spot in the chest area. However, this arrow flew to the side without penetrating the defense. The lord did not understand what goal the guy was pursuing, but the arrows one after another hit the same point. Despite all the lord's mockery, Sanchin did not stop. At some point, the force of the blows caused the lord to lose his balance and step aside. Sanchin realized that his strategy was working, so he had to move even faster and be even more precise. Arrows must hit the heart directly to penetrate the armor by repeatedly hitting the same spot. At some point, due to the constant blows, sparks began to fly off the armor, which greatly angered the Lord. Commentators slowly but surely began to understand what Sanchin was aiming for, but no one believed that it would be successful. The Lord felt that the armor was beginning to crumble and decided to attack. The arrows behind Sanchin's back were slowly but surely running out. Viewers wrote that arrows were a very bad weapon against the Lord, but Sanchin was convinced otherwise. Another arrow was sent towards the Lord's chest. The boss was inevitably approaching, not paying attention to the fact that the arrows had almost reached their target. The arrow, as usual, bounced to the side like all the previous ones. But this time a gap was made. The Lord even froze for a moment, not understanding how this could have happened. The boss didn't have time to do anything, as another arrow was approaching him at high speed. It unerringly pierced the gap in the armor, causing the sword to fall from the Lord's hands. The arrow was fired with such force that it entered the flesh more than halfway. The Lord lost his footing and fell backwards. Sanchin remained in his place, and only 3 arrows remained behind his back. The comments exploded with congratulations and praise for his abilities, and donations poured in like a river. Sanchin was able to exhale, as he was tired, and not 100% sure that he would be able to carry out the plan with the arrows he had. 3 hours of training and a quest of increased difficulty are very exhausting, but the feelings he gets from winning charge him with energy again and again. Having caught his breath, Sanchin scrolled through the messages about donations and read out the nicknames of the viewers, thanking them for their support. The guy said he fired about 40 shots at the same spot, causing the armor to give way and break. Sanhyun was about to complete the quest to see Lady Amelia's surprised face. The guy's attention was drawn to a message about a donation of 300,000 won from CO. Sanhyun immediately realized that this was the author of the video, so all the remaining comments already lost their meaning for him. Meanwhile, we are transported to a crowded subway. The short girl with dark hair was pinned between people, but she could do nothing about it. While others were able to move around inside the carriage more easily, the girl was swept away by the flow of people due to her small height. After some time, she managed to get out of the carriage into an empty metro station. The girl was clearly irritated by the crowd of people and the noise they were making. It was already late outside, but the girl continued her way home in the dark. The girl didn't understand what she was doing at all, and why she had to do all this day after day. She was obviously upset about something, because her only desire was to dive into this boundless ocean where there was not a soul. The girl seemed to be frightened by her own house, but she didn't like people anymore. Walking into the living room, she sank to the floor in front of the TV, wondering if the broadcast had already started or not. Seeing that the streamer had just started broadcasting, a smile blossomed on the girl's face. On the TV screen we saw Sanyun loading a game. The girl watched the stream closely and listened to every word Sanchin said. For the girl, the guy's streams were the only light in her life. Initially, the girl watched the guy's streams because his nickname sounded like her favorite snack, almonds. But then the girl got involved in this business because Sanhyun's streams attracted her. The girl was surprised that the guy accepted a difficult quest from Amelia. However, all his actions were consistent and striking in their originality. The girl watched the guy's every action with interest. She liked what was happening on the broadcast. Some moments made the girl laugh. At some point, Sanchin managed to knock the shield off the knight's head. This greatly impressed the girl, as the situation at that moment seemed hopeless. Finally, the quest began to come to an end when the arrow pierced the Lord's heart. The girl saw how the boss, who had the highest level armor, lost to the archer. Almond continued to sit in his place, resting after the intense attack. These shots were impressive and touched the girl. The girl was very happy that the guy was able to cope with this difficult mission without changing his weapon. The girl immediately began to think about how much money to send the guy as a donation. She thought about sending the usual 100,000 won, since this was not her first time sending a donation. But before the girl sent the amount, she decided that it was worth sending 300,000 won. The girl does not want to give in to anyone in this, and despite the fact that she has already spent a lot, she does not see anything bad in this, because she is investing in her happiness. The guy immediately noticed her donation, and said that he already knew her nickname. Other commentators suggested that Sanhyun should do a backflip to end the stream. Commentators started writing that the guy wouldn't succeed, and would end up as usual, but Sanhyun succeeded. After this, the game turned off, and a notification came that Sanhyun had died and was resurrected at the last save location. The guy suggested that he was kicked out of the game due to optimization. Sanhyun said that he didn't succeed, so he thanked Seo again for the donation and said that he would end the stream. Sanhyun ended the stream and opened the capsule. The guy thought that even if he died, the game would still not kick him out. Sanhyun remembered a viewer with the nickname Soe and wondered what this person does in life. The guy thought about the fact that this viewer must be quite young to donate such amounts to the streamer. Sanchin is discouraged by the situation, but there is nothing he can do about it. Meanwhile, the girl with the nickname Seo was lying on the floor in her room and laughing, because today's stream was very funny. A few minutes later, the girl got up from the floor with the idea of making another clip on the stream. She scrolled through her playlist, choosing a song that would go well with the stream. The girl picked an exciting track, since today's stream had a good plot. Almond played better and better than ever before. These videos promised to be very exciting. The next day, Sanhyun woke up to someone calling him. Picking up the phone, he asked why Ji-hyuk wasn't sleeping. The guy on the other end said he was having lasagna for lunch today, after which Sanchin hung up. A moment later, Ji-hyuk called back and apologized. He didn't expect Sanhyun to just end the call. The brunette asked the manager what made him call so early, and he replied that they had some kind of problem. Ji-hyuk asked if Sanhyun remembered someone named Seo who had previously posted a video from the stream. Ji-hyuk said that this viewer has a private account, so he doesn't respond to their meeting requests, so Song-hyun should ask him when he'll donate next. The brunette replied that he didn't want to do that, and then Ji-hyuk said that they would have to wait a very long time for an answer. After this, the manager ended their conversation and hung up. The boy spent the rest of the morning thinking about this situation. In order to get his head in order, San-hyun decides to first get his house in order. As he walked down the stairs, the guy thought that he walked up and down them every day, but still found it hard to breathe. Sanchin decided to ignore it and take it as a kind of training. The guy thought that all the difficulties were temporary and he would be able to overcome them. But at that moment the door opened right in front of him and hit him on the head. The girl leaving the house was very scared and began to apologize to the guy. San-hyun sat down on the ground and rubbed his bruised shoulder while the girl came closer and asked if he was hurt. The guy turned towards her and said that he was fine. The girl saw his face and abruptly moved away, causing the tablet to fall out of her hands and roll down the stairs. She immediately recognized the guy as streamer Almond. Sanchin didn't understand her reaction, and asked if everything was okay with the girl. The girl remained silent, so San-hyun decided to leave her alone and go away. This time the guy got to the trash bins without incident and threw the bags into them. San-hyun felt much better after the walk, but he hadn't gone far before his phone rang. The guy took the call and asked the manager what happened again. Ji-hyuk said that another video from Seo was released and asked if the guy watched it. Despite the fact that the video was just posted, it has already collected more than 3,000 views and more than 100 comments. The video is trending at number 78, and at this rate it will gain all 200,000 views in less than a day. Ji-hyuk said that he left their contact information in the comments, and now all they have to do is wait for a response. When the call ended, San-hyun heard the girl's voice asking him to wait. The guy turned around and saw the same girl who had hit him with the door a couple of minutes ago. San-hyun began to feel his pockets, trying to figure out if he had dropped anything when he hit himself. His actions were interrupted by the girl, who quickly handed him a notebook. The girl covered her face with a cap, but it was clear that she was blushing from embarrassment as she asked San-hyun to leave an autograph. The guy was stunned and didn't understand what the girl wanted from him. Only after a few moments did the guy realize that the girl could be his fan. San-hyun asked if she really watched his streams, to which the girl nodded her head. The guy thought that he was not that famous yet, but he had already met a fan near his house. Since San-hyun didn't answer for a long time, the girl thought that he would refuse, but he happily accepted the notebook and asked her name. The girl replied that her name was Jia, causing the notebook in the guy's hands to shake. A moment later, the girl introduced herself with her full name, So Jia. The meeting that Ji-hyuk and San-hyun had been trying to arrange for the past few days finally happened. The guys invited the girl to a cafe, where Jia said that her main job was editing. Ji-hyuk said it's great when editing becomes not just a job, but also a hobby. Ji-hyuk said that they were looking for a girl, but they didn't think that this meeting would happen so accidentally. Jia asked why they were trying to find her. The manager said it was nothing serious, but then he took several sheets of paper out of his briefcase. Ji-hyuk immediately offered the girl to work with them, but San-hyun did not understand when the manager had time to prepare all the documents, because he had only recently found out about the girl. Jia didn't fully understand what Ji-hyuk meant. As an experienced negotiator, the manager immediately noticed doubts in the girl's behavior. Ji-hyuk decided that he had to put pressure on the girl, otherwise she would reject their offer and leave. Ji-hyuk said that the videos the girl posted had some problems with monetization. The girl didn't understand what he was talking about, and then the manager reminded her that she was violating copyright, and fan channels cannot generate income. Jia looked embarrassed and said that she sent the guy donations on streams. The girl began to defend herself and said that her videos were not made for profit. Ji-hyuk decided to get down to business and said that he was offering the girl to work with them and earn income from these videos. The manager saw that Jia was behaving in an unconventional way, because usually everyone is interested in money, but she apparently had a different goal. Initially, Ji-hyuk thought that the girl was rich, but it turned out that she sent donations because she was a fan of Almond. All the videos she made were built on enthusiasm. It is this enthusiasm that should be used to attract the girl's attention. Ji-hyuk said that Almond needs the help of an editor, and that only So Jia is suitable for him and no one else. Sanchin didn't understand what the manager was talking about, but he said that he had everything under control. The girl was touched by his words and asked if they really needed her. Ji-hyuk said that they had been looking for a suitable editor for so long, and Sun-hyun decided to play along and said that he would like to work as a girl. Sun-hyun said that he needed her help, and then the girl would continue to edit his videos the way she wanted. The girl thought about how long it had been since she had been needed by anyone. After all, she always felt like the odd one out. Jia was confused, so she asked if she could think for a moment before giving a final answer. The guys agreed to wait, but the girl interrupted their joy. Jia said that she had some problem. The girl said that the company she currently works for prohibits dual contracts. To officially become Almond's editor, she will have to quit her current job, but she will need to make a living. The girl is satisfied with her salary at the moment, and she is afraid to rely only on income from videos. San-hyun realized that the girl needed to be paid a fixed amount, but at the moment he couldn't even afford to pay Ji-hyuk. The guy turned to the manager and said that they should think about this issue again. However, Ji-hyuk did not listen to him and was determined. The manager opened the bag and said that he just happened to have one letter with him. Today they received an offer of cooperation from the Pank Company, which includes payment for the editor's work. This letter made the girl cast aside all doubts and agree to this job. San-hyun thought that the girl had solved the issue of her livelihood so easily, which meant that she had not liked working at her previous place of work. Ji-hyuk said that the girl would be paid a base salary of 25 million won per year, plus 40% of the all-tube income as a bonus. The manager also suggested simply splitting the entire income in half, but Jia said that she liked the idea of a fixed salary better. After signing the contract, Ji-hyuk said that he would contact the girl after receiving a response from Punk Company. Jia asked what she should do with the videos she had previously posted on her channel, and the manager said that they would need to be posted on their official channel. The girl bowed to them and asked them to call her when all the details were resolved. When Jia had moved a sufficient distance away, San-hyun poked the manager in the side. The guy asked if the offer of cooperation from Punk was real, to which the manager replied that he had never been a liar. Sanchin was surprised by this offer, but he was not going to refuse, since the conditions were very favorable. Ji-hyuk said that Jia turned out to be very straightforward and meticulous, although the guy expected that it would be much easier to negotiate with her. San-hyun said that being a fan and working side by side with your idol are two completely different things. Ji-hyuk noted that she must really like Almond since she sent large sums of money. But in conversation the girl was very cold and reserved. Lost in thought, the manager said that during the entire conversation, the girl never smiled once. Meanwhile, Jia ran home at breakneck speed and, running into the apartment, leaned her back against the door. Tripping over her own feet, the girl threw off her outerwear. Running to the bed, the girl jumped onto it and covered her head with the blanket. Wild screams and fussing could be heard from under the blanket. Jia couldn't believe that she had met Almond in person, and becoming his editor was completely out of the question. The girl looked through the contract she had signed in the cafe again, and still couldn't believe that this wasn't a dream. Only now did it begin to dawn on the girl that she had finally managed to escape from that life. She remembered how the employees from her previous place of work mocked her, and told her that she would never be treated as well as she was treated there. The girl was mired in this, and could not find a way out of this nightmare that was eating her from the inside day after day. Jia couldn't believe that her talent was finally being recognized. The girl went to her page and decided to read the reviews on the video, and they all made her happy. Jia hugged the phone to her chest and enjoyed the feeling spreading through her body. After some time, San-hyun also returned home and decided to start the stream early. When the guy got ready and sat in the capsule, he received a message. In the message, the girl sent music for the screensaver and attached instructions for use, which greatly surprised the guy, because they had recently gone home. San-hyun watched the opening credits and was amazed. Jia said that she didn't make the video in one go, but slowly in her free time from work. San-hyun thanked the girl and said that he would definitely use the screensaver in the right place. After a while, Almond began broadcasting. All subscribers instantly received a notification from the app. Some people were caught at home, while others were out walking with friends at the time. Some people were lucky enough to be in a gaming club at that moment. As viewers began to join the stream, San-hyun launched the intro. Some viewers were already familiar with Seo's work, so they asked if she had made the opening theme. As the intro drew to a close, the number of viewers increased. Commentators asked if the girl had really been hired as an editor. When the number of viewers exceeded 1,000, Sanhyun appeared on the main screen and greeted everyone. The guy thanked the viewers for the welcome donations and suggested that they immediately move on to the game. Spectators noticed that all the bodies remained in their places. Sanhyun said that they needed to report everything to Amelia. But they had one more thing to do. The guy said that if he could clear everything alone, it means he can take some resources with him. After inspecting the castle, Sanhyun was faced with a difficult choice of several bows. The guy also managed to find a whole chest of gold. In another room, Sanhyun found new clothes. She immediately caught his attention, and commentators wrote that the guy should definitely take her. Sanhyun didn't even think of refusing this offer, and changed his clothes to new ones. The commentators suggested that the guy take something else, but the limit had already been exceeded, so Sanhyun couldn't take anything else. The boy came up to the stable and said that now he wouldn't die so easily. Taking the horse, Sanhyun said that he was going to Amelia to complete the task. Time passes much faster in the game than in real life, so Sanhyun reached Amelia's castle by dawn. Sanhyun was happy with this turn of events, and the audience supported him in this. The boy dismounted and was tying his horse when he was called. Amelia was passing by in a carriage and noticed Almond. The guy came closer to the carriage and bowed in greeting. Almond said that he came to report to the girl about the completed task. The girl turned to her maid and told her to be left alone with the guy. The maid could not allow Milady to be left alone with the mercenary, but Amelia insisted. Milady got out of the carriage and invited Almond to come into the building. The guy followed her, and Amelia said that the guy completed the task incredibly quickly.